After being killed again, no one could stop Long Fei. After being killed again, no one could stop Long Fei. As long as he was close enough, no one would be able to withstand him. The surface of the infinite boxing was dyed red, and its hands were burning hot. Long Fei did not notice. The image of the dragon patriarch's tragic death was still lingering in his mind. He would never stop until he destroyed the god's tribe. The strength of one level go against the god's tribe. It could be said, this arrogance was limitless. After consecutively killing Ancient Strong, the remaining Ancient Strong S were suppressed by the aura on Long Fei's body until they couldn't breathe, indicating that they were in a difficult situation. All of them were infuriated. Boom! Boom! The two powerhouse S flew out and released their power. Young Tao is slightly moved. The Savage King stopped him and said, "The boss won't let you go. He's already in a berserk state, and his body is filled with killing intent. If you don't release it, I'm afraid he'll suffocate to death." Young Taoist looked at the power of eternity on Long Fei's right hand and said, "If this excessive consumption continues, his body won't be able to withstand it. No way. He's the future eternal lord, the eternal emperor. I can't let him continue like this." Young Taoist was about to fly over to Long Fei's side, but he was stopped by the Wild King. "How could I not know about this?" Young Taoist said angrily. "Since you know about it, why didn't you stop it? You will harm Senior Brother if you do so." Quang Wang's eyes became angry, and he directly asked, "What did your master tell you?" Young Taoist said, "Let me protect the safety of Senior Brother." The Savage King asked, "Then is the boss in danger?" Young Taoist. Quang Wang continued, "What is the Eternal Lord's experiential learning?" "You don't know. I don't know either. Even your master doesn't know entirely. The way is my Lord's own choice. Maybe this is the Eternal Lord's experience? Do you want to stop it?" Young Taoist became silent once again. This is his path. No matter how he walks, he is still walking on his own path. We are unable to choose his path for him. The only thing we can do is to allow him to walk on his own path. No more intervention is possible. Just like how a tree grows, growing freely is what he wants the most. Only then will he grow up to be a towering tree. Young Taoist said, "You're just going to watch?" The Savage King said, "Let's just watch him perform." With both hands on his chest, he said in a low voice, "I felt it just now. If Boss were to continue his slaughter in this state, no one in Shrine would be able to stop him. He had to ensure Long Fei's safety. Absolutely safe." Young Taoist was still a little worried. Master said that Senior Brother's experiential learning will be very rough. Quang Wang asked, "Then did your master say that the more difficulties you undergo, the more positive results you would obtain?" The young Taoist muttered, "Master did indeed say that, but Eternal Lord's experiential learning is different from other experiential learning. It is more dangerous than any other experiential learning. Senior Brother has only just stepped into the threshold. If you continue to exhaust yourself like this, I'm worried." Quang Wang placed his hand on young Taoist's shoulder and said, "What are you worried about? You should still worry about whether or not you can cultivate to the longevity. Lord Dark Goddess's lifespan is..." Young Taoist's pupils tightened. The Savage King said, "There are some things that you don't know without telling others. All right, don't be so nervous. Dark Goddess doesn't know. In her heart, you are just a man with a bad heart." "Ha ha!" Quang Wang laughed, and he also muttered in his heart, "My craziness. And when will you be able to cultivate it?" Die! Bam! Bang! Bang, 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 bang. A series of fist sounds exploded out above Shrine. Long Fei walked out from the deep pit, looked up, and said with a heavy voice, "Next, who else?" Two more Ancient Strong S were turned upside down, and still, he was beaten to death by Long Fei's endless barrage of attacks. Two more. This. Third Elder. Should I make the arrangements first? I think we should still go to the Emperor Xian Palace. What if the Emperor Xian doesn't know what is happening here? This brat is too terrifying. He is not human at all. Ancient Strong can't hold on for more than 3 seconds in his hands. It has already far surpassed our cultivation realm. Go get the Emperor Xian quickly. Hall of Emperor Xian, go quickly. Now they were completely panicking. Even if they knew that the great clan elder could sense that the power of the ancient inheritance had disappeared, they were still worried. Several clan elders ran towards the hall of Emperor Xian. It was also at this time. Rumble, rumble. A few more ancient strong S were smashed to the ground by Long Fei. Ancient strong? He can't even withstand a single blow. Only trash like you're qualified to block my way. All of you die. Long Fei let out a loud shout, and the sound dispersed into the sky. His killing intent did not weaken just because he killed a few ancient strong S. Instead, it became even more ruthless. The flames on his body burned even more intensely. Not only that, the power of eternity on Long Fei's right arm also seemed to have entered a berserk state. It was as if there was someone specially cultivating for him. It was as if he was right beside him. Long Fei was not in the mood to experience this kind of feeling. There was only one word in his heart: kill. Kill everything here. Next, come on. Long Fei roared. In another place, the 9 layered heavens from the guillotine. In the 9th heaven, the eyes of Long Fei's clone turned sinister as he looked at the final stage of the refinement realm and said with a calm voice, "Why is my heart filled with killing intent? This 9th heaven, laws of the heavens, this is the power that the Emperor Xian cultivates." All right. With a slight movement, the purple-colored gas on his body swirled slightly, absorbing the power within the 8th heavenly layer. With a flick of his finger, the energy from the 8th heavenly layer was absorbed by his body. Buzz! Purple flames soared to the sky. It formed a purple sky within the heavenly laws. Boom! Boom! An incomparably violent collision sound rang out, as if 2 levels were in a fight. Long Fei's clone locked his eyes tightly and felt the power of the ancient code of heaven. Something like an incense burner in his body continuously released purple flames. Half a moment. Break for me. Crack. The sky split open, and the 9 layered heavens also began to collapse at this moment. The entire God's tribe palace was trembling, as if they were about to collapse. The 9th heaven was created by the Emperor Xian. It was the pillar of the God's tribe. Now that it was split open, the shrine was shaken. Elder, the 9 heavens' destruction. What should we do? Don't worry. The guillotine is still here, and there's still another forbidden force that will kill that person. Emperor Xian. Has the Emperor Xian returned? Quick, quick! Everyone go to Hall of Emperor Xian, quick! Ancient strong S were ravaged and crushed by Long Fei one after another. The elders and disciples of God's tribe S were all panicking when they saw this. Ancient strong S were ravaged and crushed by Long Fei one after another. The elders and disciples of God's tribe S were all panicking when they saw this. A cold shiver went down their spines. Fear, fear. This was the feeling that many of them finally understood after birth. Their bodies trembled and staggered as if they couldn't control themselves. It would be fine if it was just one Long Fei. A 9 heavens ruptured, and the fulcrum that supported the collapse of a Shrine S, a person who could trample a 9th heaven to pieces, was definitely not weaker than Long Fei. Even if there was a guillotine above the 9th heaven, beneath the guillotine there was nothing alive. Not to mention humans, even gods would be killed as well. But their hearts were unsettled. If the guillotine could not be killed, that meant there were 2 terrifying people in the shrine. Emperor Xian must be notified as soon as possible. Emperor Xian must return, otherwise. Quick, quick, go to Hall of Emperor Xian. Everyone go quickly. Everyone. A few presbyter of God's tribe S shouted. Rumble. Another ancient strong was killed by Long Fei's fist. The remaining ancient strong felt fear in their hearts. In the most ancient of times, they were just a few small fries. Right now, they're still small fries to the ancient emperors of the ancient world. They were the peak existences in the universal realm. They had experienced the storms of ancient times and had seen the Dragon Clan back then. They had seen Long Baitian's superpower. However, now, they felt that the power that Long Fei displayed far exceeded that of the past Long Batian. Strong? Not just strong. If I don't kill you like that on Long Fei, then this daddy will never let you go. No matter how many people attacked Long Fei, he would only catch one and fight them to the death, never letting go. As for the attacks on him, it was as if he couldn't feel any pain at all. Long Fei was a madman. A madman that was even crazier than Long Batian all those years ago. He's not human at all. He's even crazier than Long Batian. He's a lunatic. No way. I don't want to wait here for death. I can't bear to get out of that damned seal. I don't want to die here. God tribe is nothing. I don't want to risk my life for them. You're right. Return to the ancient world. Back then, even Long Batian could not do anything to us but this brat. One by one, they began to retreat. Watching the elders of the gods' tribe rush to the hall of Emperor Xian, the remaining ancient strong also swiftly flew to the hall of Emperor Xian. The hall of Emperor Xian was also the place where the two of them were connected. There was a passage to the ancient world. Carry him away. Next. When Long Fei raised his eyes, he discovered that all of the Powerhouse S were fleeing towards the hall of Emperor Xian S. Looking at the hall of Emperor Xian S in the distance, the anger in his heart roiled once again. I said before, everyone here has to die. He wanted to use all the people in the shrine to accompany the 13th dragon ancestor in death. He wanted everyone in God's tribe to pay the price. His fist moved, pulling out from an ancient strong's body. His fist was crimson red and emitted the sound of evaporating water. He had to say it. This boxing glove was truly amazing. This was only a level 1 fist gloves. If it reached the top, Long Fei felt that its power could turn a plane into dust with a single punch. The gloves that destroyed the hegemony. The material used to create it was also extremely powerful, possessing the power to destroy planets. What kind of existence was exterminating a tyrant? The strongest boss among the mighty heavenly beasts. There was no other one. Long Fei looked at the glove, his fists sinking. The feather god wings on his back was about to fly towards Hall of Emperor Xian. Young Taoist caught up quickly and said, "Senior brother, you have exhausted too much of your strength. If this goes on, your body would be at a disadvantage. They can't escape now. Kill slowly. There's no rush." Long Fei was not overly exhausted. Right now, he was completely burning away at his HP. He didn't care about his life. Long Fei's killing intent had not faded. His anger had not diminished. And he said, "If the God's tribe is not destroyed, I will not stop. The two of you, guard the shrine's gate. Don't let any of you off, understand?" Finished. Long Fei took a step forward and rushed towards the hall of Emperor Xian, roaring, "All of you will die. All of you must die." The Wild King descended down and said, "I'll say it. It's useless. The boss won't listen. His heart is currently filled with hostility. The God's tribe is his place to vent it. If he doesn't vent all of it, I'm afraid there will be problems with his body." Young Taoist said, "If we overdraw like this, senior brother will not be able to take it." How could the Wild King not know? There are only two ways to make boss stop. Young Taoist immediately asked, "What method?" The Raging King said, "One is to continue to exhaust himself and kill everyone in the entire shrine. The evil aura in his body will disappear, and under the pressure of a superpower house, he will be directly beaten back to his original form, allowing him to calm down and allow his consciousness to take control of his body once again. However, I have sensed all the Shrine S, but no one has been able to do such a thing, so..." Just as the Wild King was speaking, suddenly, his forehead tightened. He turned around and immediately looked in another direction. Not the hall of Emperor Xian. It was a spot outside the shrine's gates in the sky. The Wild King said solemnly, "What a powerful strength, this power." Young Taoist's expression became serious. He could also feel the strong power. This power came from the 9 heavens. The 9 heavens were shattered as a single person stood beneath a gigantic saber gate. Guillotine. No one else could see, but he could actually see it very clearly, because this huge blade was floating above his head. No matter how he moved, he could not dodge it. Guillotine, the place where everything was destroyed. Back then, I thought that I would be able to step into the shrine after breaking through the 9th heaven. So this is where the truly powerful ones are. Long Fei's clone did not dare to be careless. The war god stage was not only suspended above his head, but also in his mind. It was as if Long Fei dared to rush forward, the guillotine's huge blade would fall. Even the gods had to die. Huff! He let out a light breath and didn't rush in. Instead, he sat down cross-legged with an incomparable calmness. His personality was completely different from real-face Long Fei. After so many years of cultivation without any worldly matters, he was able to cultivate till he became someone with a completely different personality from Long Fei. No matter what, his heart was abnormally calm. Guillotine slashes the heavens. Everything can be cut down. This guillotine, it should be something that the Emperor Xian brought back from the ancient world. Furthermore, the people of Ming clan that were captured should have all been killed by this guillotine, which also made it stronger. To break through this guillotine, half a moment, Long Fei raised his eyes and released a purple light. Buzz! His body blurred as a violet fog coiled around him. Boom! With an explosion, the purple mist scattered and Long Fei stood up. He was dressed in a super divine purple robe. Purple light flashed, exceptionally dazzling. Purple light flashed, exceptionally dazzling. The amethyst dragon plate crown had 2 purple feathers that fluttered in the wind. Below the crown was the amethyst coiling dragon helmet. Immortal Emperor armor. There was a purple heart protection mirror on his abdomen, and a purple pill furnace was engraved on top of the heart protection mirror. In the furnace world, every part of the divine armor was lightly flowing with purple flames, as though every scale was alive and moving. Amethyst coiling dragon arm, twin dragons coiled around the dragon's head. His purple, godly outfit sparkled, making him look like a super big boss. The clothes alone were enough to scare people. What he was holding in his hand was even more frightening. A long, thin saber. It was incomparably long, a total of 39 meters long. It was completely purple, transparent, with a dragon tail in its hand. The dragon's body was perfectly straight, like a wild dragon that had just rushed out of a sea of anger. This saber was also known as Wild Dragon Goes to Sea. From stepping into the 9th heaven to now, Long Fei's clone had always been absorbing the energy within the 9th heaven, using a special cultivation method to absorb all the energy in the 9th heaven. But now, he was going to use all of his war god equipment to fight. The guillotine slashed at the heavens. Everything would be destroyed. It was an unparalleled holy artifact in itself. Emperor Xian used it to suppress the 9 heavens and also used it to set up a taboo power. Anyone who broke through to the 9 heavens would not be able to escape death. Emperor Xian never thought that someone would still be alive after breaking through to the 9th heaven. Therefore, guillotine not only had the power to slay gods, they also had the forbidden power that was poured into the Emperor Xian. How strong was it? It was impossible to put into words. You want to go head-to-head with him? Even the ancient world-S would not do such a thing. Long Fei called out his battle-godly attire and held onto the 39-meter-long blade. He stared at the guillotine and muttered, "I failed to break through to the 9th heaven that year. At that time, I swore that I would destroy this 9 heavens. The 9th heaven is gone, and your guillotine is also dead." As soon as he finished, rumble, 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 the space around Long Fei ruptured, and with a loud bang, streams of purple energy were released from his body, and the 39-meter-long blade instantly combusted. Zhang Xian's eyes twitched. Long Fei flew out. Also in the instant that he moved, the guillotine sensed it and let out a furious roar. "You juniors actually dare to charge into my god-slaying stage? You overestimate your capabilities, and watch how I shatter your primordial spirit." Boom! A blade from the guillotine fell. Just like the knife sluice on the guillotine, it was just that the sword that fell from a guillotine was extremely huge and had the power to slay gods. It fell down heavily. At the same time, in Long Fei's mind, a huge blade also fell. This was where the guillotine were the strongest. It doesn't matter if it's your physical body, your mind, or your sea of consciousness. If you were to be killed by the guillotine anywhere, you would also die. Moreover, if one place was destroyed, then the other 2 places definitely wouldn't be able to block it. Huff! The heart of idea and the soul of the sea of consciousness. Open. Long Fei heaved a deep sigh, and his mind moved. A person who looked exactly like him was floating above his mind, staring at the sky. Similarly, the same was true for the sea of consciousness. Long Fei held onto the 39-meter-long dragon blade, staring at it in the air. He flew out. Gripping the knife with both hands, he leaned back. Walala! Walala! The sky split open, and the sound of cracks constantly rang out. What a strong power! Young Taoist also said this power is a little different from this world. Is it an enemy of the senior brother? Kuang Wang shook his head and said, I'm not sure. You follow boss to the hall of Emperor Xian. I'll guard here. The hall of Emperor Xian had to have someone. The power of eternity on Long Fei's body was extremely unstable. If the profound qi in his body could not support it, the power of eternity would disappear. Once his power disappeared, Long Fei would be a trash. Body of Taodi might not be able to stop it. The young Taoist did not beat around the bush and said, Kuang Wang, be careful yourself. Kuang Wang smiled innocently and said, Don't worry, I've been waiting my whole life for a life-and-death battle. If he's the opponent I have to wait for, I'll thank the heavens for that. Ha ha! The Wild King was a madman. The young Taoist didn't say much. He cultivated the immortal path to cultivate longevity for his beloved, and he also knew what the Wild King cultivated. This was madness. He could not show even a trace of fear. Even if he knew he was going to die, he would still attack. His path was harder than the path of the young Taoist. Outside the hall of Emperor Xian, Long Fei's body suddenly sank and stopped. The moment he landed on the ground, his body staggered and he almost fell down. That feeling came again. He felt that his mind and his sea of consciousness were both under great threat. It was as if his mind would be severed in the next breath and his sea of consciousness would be destroyed. This feeling, it was very hard. It's here again, it's here again. What exactly is it? Long Fei's mind was in pain, and his body felt heavy. He didn't know why he had become like this in this period of time. But he knew that he just needed to kill the Emperor Xian, to cut down everything in Emperor Xian. The Emperor Xian seal would disappear, and the shackles in his body would disappear as well. At that time, all of his memories would return, and he would definitely know about the past. Long Fei roared in rage as he pushed out the other image from his mind. His mind sank, and he stepped heavily onto the steps of the hall of Emperor Xian. He took a step forward. The staircase shattered. Long Fei was like a death god. All of you must die. Inside hall of Emperor Xian, all the elders of the descendant of God's tribe kneeled in front of the Emperor Xian, kowtowing crazily as they begged. However, those ancient strong did not care so much. The moment the idea moved, they immediately rushed into the channel, into the outer world, and returned to the ancient world. Hall of Emperor Xian was packed with people. Lord Emperor Xian, come back quickly. Master, God's tribe can't take it anymore. Emperor Xian, Master, all of them were kneeling. A few elders blocked Ancient Strong's path and said, My lords, if you leave, God's tribe really won't be able to hold on. You promised Emperor Xian that you would protect this place well. I beg everyone, please stay. When Emperor Xian returns, that little bastard will definitely be grinded into pieces. I beg all of you, please don't leave. Although the Ancient Strong was not Long Fei's match, at least Long Fei would waste some time on them. If it was Presbyter of God's tribe, it would have been a second. Ancient Strong asked, What's wrong? Treat us like cannon fodder? Your God's tribe is nothing. You didn't even have one when we were still here. So what if you're Emperor Xian? Is the Emperor Xian that great? This is your God's tribe's own affair. Don't drag us into it. You pieces of trash from the God's tribe are completely useless. At this moment, the wind blew and the statue of the Emperor Xian moved. The gigantic Emperor Xian statue suddenly moved. The gigantic Emperor Xian statue suddenly moved. In an instant, the entire hall of Emperor Xian was filled with a special kind of power. Many descendant of God's tribe and elders kneeled on the ground without any hesitation. Those ancient strong were only slightly shocked and did not think much of it. They were the powerhouse S who had come from the ancient world. They were not God's tribe S, and were not under their control either. Furthermore, even if they were in front of Emperor Xian S, they did not need to respect them, because they were from ancient strong and were superior to others. Thus, when they saw the change in the Emperor Xian statue, they sneered, "Pretentious. I'm just fooling around with my clansmen. What Emperor Xian? What God's tribe? Do you really think you can cover the sky with one hand? What a joke." A few ancient strong S started to mock him. With a wave of his sleeve, he gave a heavy sound and said, "Scram to the side. I am not a slave of your God's tribe. We do not have any obligation to protect you. Scram." He kicked a presbyter of God's tribe who was blocking the way, sending him flying. Following that, he took large strides towards the statue of the Emperor Xian, and the passage to the ancient world was right behind the statue of the Emperor Xian. Walking to the side of the sculpture, the ancient strong revealed a look of despise. Pa. In that instant, crack, a surge of power directly grabbed his throat and lifted him up in the air. He could not resist it at all, and his strength was completely suppressed. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough. His four limbs struggled, and his face immediately turned pale. Buzz. The statue of the Emperor Xian was shrouded in an illusory image, revealing the face of the Emperor Xian. His gaze moved slightly as he stared at the ancient strong and asked, "Who the hell do you think you are? And I thought it was your era? Huh?" He let out a loud roar. The voice of the Emperor Xian became even more gloomy, and he said, "The current world is under my control. Understand?" The pressure was like a raging ocean. The ancient strong was scared to the point that he peed, fluid continuously flowing out of his crotch area. Unable to even make a sound, he could only nod his head. The other ancient strong S could not withstand this pressure either. Their bodies sank and their legs trembled nonstop, as if there were hundreds of thousands of mountains on their shoulders. Plop. He knelt down heavily. Plop, plop, plop. All of the ancient strong S kneeled on the ground. They didn't even dare to raise their heads, as their minds trembled uncontrollably, as if they were about to die at any moment. It was much stronger than the pressure Long Fei gave them. They always thought they were strong. Very, very strong. He was an unparalleled existence in the universal realm, but Long Fei had completely defeated them, and now it was the same for the Emperor Xian. What was wrong with this world? Were all the people from ancient world crushed? Crack! With a burst of power, the ancient strong who was lifted up immediately had his neck crushed, his head rolling down. Emperor Xian coldly snorted and said, "It's too late to understand." His voice sounded like a god of death. The ancient strong S who were kneeling on the ground trembled. Emperor Xian shot them a cold glance, not in the mood to care about them, but instead asked, "What happened? Who dares to make a move on God's tribe?" There is simply no such person in the universal realm. This shadow was the clone of the Emperor Xian. What he was saying now was also what the Emperor Xian had said himself. All along the way, he did not understand who dared to go against the God's tribe. Even if there was, no one in the universal realm could kill the God's tribe. And even more so, no one could break through the formation of the God's tribe. The power of the ancient inheritance was now dead. He didn't understand. An elder raised his head and said, "Master, yes, it's that brat from Long family. It's him." In that instant, Emperor Xian's brows tightened as his fury surged. He's actually still alive? Actually, in his eyes, Long Fei was just like a little bug, constantly jumping up and down. He had never taken it seriously, and this had always been the case for him since the moment Long Fei charged into the ninth heaven. And then again, to think that he was still alive. One of the ancient strong spoke out brazenly. "My lord, Lord everyone, he could be the reincarnation of Long Batian." Long Batian? The space between Emperor Xian's eyebrows tightened even more. Others might not know, but he was very clear about what kind of existence Long Batian was. The number one powerhouse of all those years ago. The Dragon Clan was also the number one clan in the ancient world back then. Moreover, it was rumored that Long Batian did not even belong to this world, because he had existed since the birth of the ancient world and no one knew where he came from. His strength could not be described with words. If not for him being too savage, looking down on everyone, and being so arrogant and lawless, the entire plane of ancient world had become extremely chaotic, which led to the invasion of the outer space powerhouse. He led his people in a desperate resistance. Although he had stopped those outer space demons in the end, he still received a punishment. The appearance of the outer space repression of boundary stones immediately suppressed him. As for why, no one knew where the repression of boundary stones came from. Even, no one knew where Long Baishan's body was being suppressed by the repression of boundary stones. This was also what Emperor Xian was looking for during this period of time. It was also during this time that they received news that Long Baishan's body was suppressing the Ashura's abyss. It was just that, whether it was real or fake for the time being, no one knew. When Emperor Xian heard the name Long Batian, his heart secretly shivered. Could it be? The marriage between Long family and Mu clan had a surge of power within the body of a newborn baby. Did they know at that time that this baby was Long Baishan's reincarnation? If it's really Long Baishan's reincarnation. Emperor Xian squinted his eyes. Although it was only the face of a shadow, his sinister expression made people shudder. So what if Long Batian has reincarnated? No matter who he is, he'll kneel in the world I control. The Emperor Xian's voice fell. It was also at this time. Long Fei stood at the entrance of the hall of Emperor Xian and looked at the people kneeling in front of a statue. His voice was like thunder, echoing within the hall of Emperor Xian for a long time. At this moment, hall of Emperor Xian was incomparably quiet, so a pin drop could even be heard. There was a pause of half a minute. Wah-ha! Ha! Laughter. The shadow of the Emperor Xian slowly floated up and stood in the middle of the hall of Emperor Xian. Staring at Long Fei, he said, "You are that little bastard who doesn't know his place, right? Bastard, your ancestors." Boom! Long Fei's eyes opened wide. Without saying a word, he immediately rushed forward, wanting to directly beat Emperor Xian to the ground and ruthlessly rub on him. Thus, his strength exploded. Boom! He rushed straight towards the Emperor Xian. The shadow of the Emperor Xian sneered sinisterly. "You overestimate yourself. If you don't want to, then do it. If you don't want to, then do it." So when they met, Long Fei pounced on them like a madman. No matter how strong he is, he didn't care if he was an opponent or not. He would do it with just one word. It was just that. The Emperor Xian laughed sinisterly as he looked at Long Fei rushing over. Ignorant junior. A surge of power surged through his body. Buzz! At this moment, Long Fei's body suddenly sank. Bang, 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 bang. A series of popping sounds came from his chest. One after another, the runes of the gods' tribe shone with a blinding light. One after another, the rune-like items exploded on Long Fei's chest like bombs. His chest felt as if it had been ripped apart. Long Fei's attacks simply could not continue. Even, he had only taken half a step before he stopped. Long Fei could not help but let out a painful cry as the clothes on his chest were completely burned away and he was half naked. The runes on his chest were like billions of bugs that were tearing at his flesh. A lame duck like you dares to challenge my dignity. So what if you're a Long Baishan's reincarnation? That was back then. Now is the time. I have the final say in this world. Do you understand? The illusory image of the Emperor Xian let out a loud sound. Control the power of the seal runes on Long Fei's body. The power suddenly dropped. The Emperor Xian shouted, "Kneel!" Boom! The power of the curse rune increased even more. It was not the power of the rune on the surface that was crushing Long Fei's body. Every rune weighed millions of kilograms on Long Fei's body. The curse symbols on his chest were completely released. There were over 1,000 of them. Just how heavy was this? If it was just the weight alone, Long Fei's body of Taudi could carry it. However, every rune was not only on his body, but also in his mind. His sea of consciousness exploded and crazily crushed him. Kneel before your ancestor. Long Fei's eyes were bloodshot, and his body was trembling nonstop. Even so, his knees were not going to kneel down. However, the Emperor Xian was very unhappy and said, "Kneel." Boom! Another explosive sound rang out, and the power of the rune once again increased explosively. Long Fei's body was covered in rolling beads of sweat. His hair was all drenched, and beads of sweat were dripping down from the tips of his hair. Unwell. It was extremely uncomfortable. Ah! Long Fei's fists sunk. The infinite boxing that had cooled down turned red, his eyes staring straight at the high and mighty Emperor Xian as he roared. In the blink of an eye, "Kacha, kacha!" Blood scales appeared on Long Fei's body one after another, and they quickly grew out. It was tinged with blood. Moreover, the scales of the Taotai beast were immediately blood red. It directly covered Long Fei's entire body. At the same time, he also blocked the curse runes from coming out of his chest. Fierce, terrifying, Long Fei had completely transformed into a man-eating Taotai. Beast transmogrification, not a dragon. This. Emperor Xian's eyes were full of contempt and said, "Seems like you yourself are looking down on your own identity. You don't even want to be the strongest creature on the surface, yet you are actually a foreign magical beast? Is it you or Long Baishan's reincarnation? Abbreviation, it's a joke." Seeing Long Fei transform into a beast, the Emperor Xian felt disdain. "However, your alien magical beast body, it seems like you have been to other realms before. No wonder the entire western regions was swallowed up by the black hole and you didn't die. You are indeed outstanding," Emperor Xian said lightly. At the same time, Long Fei transformed into a Taotai under the pressure of the powerful runes, and immediately used his strong physical body to withstand the crushing attacks of the runes. It was the same in his body. The many black holes began to spin crazily. He used his mind and the power of the runes in his subconscious to crazily absorb. Rumble. He took a step forward. Rumble. As his step landed, an explosion occurred, and the entire hall of Emperor Xian began to rumble. Many presbyter of God's tribe were slightly surprised. There are so many Emperor Xian curse runes on your body, and you can still move them? Moreover, with a single step, he caused the ground within 10 kilometers to split apart. This power, the shadow of the Emperor Xian sneered and said, "You think becoming a foreign beast is that awesome? Kid, you have no idea what's going on. Where's this place? This is the universal realm. This is the world I control. I am the god here, the paragon here. All powers are within my control, including the power of law." As soon as he finished, Emperor Xian Illusory gently flipped his right hand. It seemed very ordinary, but he pressed down with his palm. Those presbyter of God's tribe and disciples could not feel any power at all. It was as if the Emperor Xian was waving his hand lightly. However, the ancient strong complexions immediately paled. This power, law. No, it's not just the power of laws. It's also a controller of laws. Could it be that we have been trapped in the seal for too long? How could he? Could it be the controller of the laws? Even a #1 powerhouse in the past, Long Batian, was unable to do it. Just who is he? Every single one of the ancient strong were shocked. Because the power of law is the power of law. As long as a certain type of power was cultivated to an extremely strong realm, it could indeed release the power of the law. But this was a completely different concept from a law controller. Obviously, the Emperor Xian is a controller of the laws. With a flip of his hand, he released a superb law power that no one else could feel. Rumble, rumble, rumble. His power surged, crushing downwards. Others might not be able to see it, but for Long Fei, it was as if the entire sky had suddenly crashed down on him. Emperor Xian sneered and said, "Obediently kneel down. Kneel before your 18 generations of ancestors." Long Fei did not dodge either. Facing the crushing suppression of the ancient code, he did not dodge, but confronted it head-on. "Bring it on. The stronger the power, the better. I'm really afraid that you're not strong enough." Long Fei was like a madman. Body of Taoti, red blood beast scales. His defense could be said to have reached his strongest Taotai body by far. At the same time, The many black holes inside his pubes had already glowed with a golden light, but the anger value had not been filled up yet, so it needed to absorb even more power. Plus, power of eternity on Long Fei's right arm. Following Long Fei's fury, the power of eternity was also crazily exploding. It could be said that this was his current greatest strength. Emperor Xian's gaze darkened slightly as he pressed down heavily with his right hand. Kneel! The origin laws roars and crush from the sky. Rumble! It heavily pressed down on top of Long Fei's head. In an instant, Long Fei's body immediately bent as boundless strength crazily crushed down on him. Long Fei's hands moved, supporting himself with incomparable difficulty. At the same time, he was roaring. The many black holes' power was quickly filled up. Boom! Golden light scattered in all directions as the flaming anger value instantly ignited. Long Fei's power directly exploded and grew crazily. Tao Ye's fury. It exploded. The strongest state. The strongest state. The most powerful force. At this moment, rank was no longer important to Long Fei. His strength had already surpassed the limits of his realm. The body of Taoti's most powerful explosion, his furies burning, allowed his strength to skyrocket by tons and was matched with the infinite boxing that had exterminated a tyrant. At this moment, Long Fei felt that he could exterminate the heavens. Rumble! With the burst of anger value, the aura around his body seemed to explode and expanded. The infinite boxing was scarlet red as he gripped it tightly. Kacha! Kacha! A punch flew out. It directly rumbled in the sky above that strand of origin law energy. Walala! The moment the fist came into contact with the sky shattered. It wasn't like when the fist split apart piece by piece, but when it exploded and was crushed into pieces, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Oh my God! Is we too weak? He directly crushed the sky above the law. Isn't this too unbelievable? That brat, that kid, that's impossible. The Emperor Xian is the controller of the laws. He is the ruler of the universal realm. There is no one who can surpass him. It's not impossible. The power on this kid's body must be from another realm. To be able to turn the sky above the realm of laws into the void, his power from another realm might even surpass the laws of the universal realm. That's not right. Didn't you see that the boy's power was too strong just now? Emperor Xian is only an illusion, only a clone. At this moment, these ancient strong were not amazed at Long Fei, but at him, because the Hall of Emperor Xian was only a clone of the Emperor Xian, an illusory image. How many clones could a powerhouse like the Emperor Xian condense? Countless paths, just like the sun Wukong. Each strand of hair could make a clone. If any one of his clones could become a paragon of laws, then how powerful was his real face? It was hard to imagine. These ancient strong were trembling incessantly. They finally understood that the flow of time, the stellar transposition, was no longer their original world. They, already out of date, the sky above them shattered. The center of Emperor Xian's brows tightened, and the cold, killing intent in his eyes intensified. At this moment, Long Fei's fist moved as it explosively rushed out. He took a heavy step into the hall of Emperor Xian, flying high up in the sky, his fist thrown back and tightly clenched as the energy on the infinite boxing combusted into flames. "The one kneeling is you," Long Fei shouted. The fist instantly descended, facing the illusory image of the Emperor Xian. Even if he was an illusory shadow facing the strongest Long Fei, it would still be able to kill him. Emperor Xian squinted and said solemnly, "You're courting death." One word. The right hand of the Emperor Xian illusory image flipped over. Rumble. With just a casual movement, another extremely powerful law energy attacked. Boom. The punch shattered. Just like with the law of heaven, his fist shattered the void and shattered the space. Rumble. Yet another extremely strong defense law. Boom. Broken. Rumble. Boom. The Emperor Xian continued to release the power of the ancient code, while Long Fei continued to unleash his sleigh. It's useless. Emperor Xian died. The explosive power of Long Fei's infinite boxing was just too powerful. A layer of laws was shattered with a single punch. Another roar came out. Long Fei's fist had shattered everything. It was finally going to hit Emperor Xian again. Emperor Xian still did not move. His gaze became even more sinister. Long Fei's strength had exceeded his expectations. Ancient world. Emperor Xian looked vicious. He was extremely displeased. I never thought that the brat from the Long family would grow to such a terrifying extent. No wonder, even though Long Zhanting's body was penetrated by the dragon lock chain and was tormented by the dragon chain, he still didn't tell me where that brat's location. Escaping to another world to cultivate, Emperor Xian frowned. The muscles in the corner of his eyes were twitching. Beside him, a middle-aged man with white hair said, "So what if you were cultivating in the outer realm? No matter how strong one's cultivation is, he's still just a piece of trash. Dragon Clan? Haha, no matter how strong you are, you have to kneel on the ground." Another middle-aged man said, "Emperor Xian, didn't we give you 2 treasures to bring back? Don't waste my time. Just use my magic treasure." Exactly. Why waste time with this sort of trash? Master didn't give us much time. Emperor Xian nodded his head and said, "I know. I will not waste any time. I just want to know what level that brat has reached. Now that I know, so he can go die now." A cold glint flashed across Emperor Xian's eyes. Long Fei's growth had exceeded his expectations. However, no matter how fast he grew, how strong he became, it was all the same to him. The result was both died. The Emperor Xian idea moved, issuing an order to his clone in the Hall of Emperor Xian. Immediately, Hall of Emperor Xian. Emperor Xian's eyes slightly widened, and something that looked like a seal suddenly floated above his left hand. At this moment, the eyes of the young Taoist, who had been looking at him from outside the door, tightened. Golden runes rushed out of his body like a tornado. Immortal Taoist scriptures. Defend. One after another of golden runes flew towards Long Fei. Young Taoist also shouted loudly, "Senior brother, dangerous." But Long Fei didn't care about all that. Even if it was dangerous, he still had to force his way down. Zhen Tian Divine Seal. The shadow of the Emperor, Xian bellowed. When the Divine Seal was released, the entire hall of Emperor Xian sank down. A heaven-shaking power, crazily, came crashing down from the Divine Seal. Long Fei's fist was just a few centimeters away from Emperor Xian's fist, and it was about to break apart. When the Divine Seal was released, his body felt as if it suddenly felt hundreds of thousands of times gravity, sinking down as if he fell into an abyss. Bam! It fell down. He fell heavily to the ground, half of his body firmly stuck to the ground. All the strength in his body was suppressed. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! The Emperor Xian laughed coldly. "You think you can kill me? You don't even have the right. Do you understand?" Trash! The Zhen Tian Divine Seal moved and heavily fell from the sky. If this Divine Seal was pressed on his body, I'm afraid Long Fei's body would be crushed into fine powder. Buzz! 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 One golden symbol after another surrounded Long Fei. It formed a defensive wall of immortal Taoist scriptures. Young Taoist also instantly descended and helped Long Fei up from the ground. Puff. Long Fei spat out a mouthful of black blood, and his body looked like it was about to fall apart. His anger value were all suppressed. He looked like a cripple. The most terrifying thing was the suppression earlier. His strength was instantly crushed, and his strength vanished. It was impossible for his body to withstand it just by relying on his Tao Ye's fleshly body. Thus, his HP crazily fell. At this moment, his health point was only left with 1 point. The domination of the Zhen Tian Divine Seal. The domination of the Zhen Tian Divine Seal. The strength of layer after layer of Long Fei's body was crushed. Having lost the protection of his strength, his health point was completely unable to endure it, and his blood value fell to the bottom. 1 point. He only had a little bit of HP left. What did a bit of HP mean? This meant that he was already at the gates of hell. If he lost even a little more blood, he would die. This meant that he was seriously injured. This way, his body would no longer be able to unleash his power and could no longer clash head-on with the Emperor Xian. It meant Long Fei lost. Hoo. Long Fei's breathing became heavy. His two eyes looking at the high and mighty illusion of the Emperor Xian, he was displeased, very displeased. Why? Long Fei roared in his heart. However, his power was gone, his strength. The power of the ancient code that was released by the Emperor Xian was unable to contend against the Zhen Tian divine seal. Above his head, the divine seal trembled. Boom! Boom! Young Taoist's brows tightened as he frantically chanted the immortal sutra, the golden runes forming a wall to block the power of the divine seal. But he was too tired to fight back. The Emperor Xian glanced at the golden runes on the defensive wall and said coldly, "Outer domain power? I didn't expect you to not only cultivate in the outer realm, but also bring back the outer space powerhouse. He's really well prepared. You want to kill me? Ha! Emperor Xian laughed disdainfully. What a pity, such a pity that you're too weak. He mocked crazily. Long Fei clenched his teeth. However, the young Taoist said, "Senior brother, don't be angry. Your body is currently very weak. You can no longer withstand any of his attacks. Even if it's just pressure, you can't withstand it." Young Taoist was very calm. If Long Fei lost his cool again, the consequences would be unimaginable. He would evacuate first and then think of a way out. However, the illusory Emperor Xian laughed disdainfully. "Do you think I would let you leave? Do you think you can make it?" Young Taoist stood up, stared at the Emperor Xian's simulacrum, and said solemnly, "You can't leave? Then you could try, and see if your divine seal can hurt us at all." Buzz! The golden symbols released in even stronger defensive power, blocking the divine seal from the outside. The eyes of the shadow of the Emperor Xian turned sinister. His right hand flipped out heavily. Open! The Zhentian divine seal floated up and then fell down heavily. Rumble! 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 Golden light scattered out, forming a huge halo that shot out. The immortal Taoist scriptures' defensive wall slowly sank down. However, there was no break at all. He had been able to block it all. Young Taoist said, "If I want to leave, who can stop me?" Young Taoist helped Long Fei up and said, "Senior brother, leave first." The face of the Emperor Xian simulacrum turned unsightly. The Zhentian divine seal flipped again and landed heavily. Rumble! Rumble! However, this time, the immortal Taoist scriptures did not even sink. Emperor Xian was angry. Just then, an ancient strong suddenly spoke out, "Master, we can do it on your behalf." While they were talking, the ancient strong quickly stood in front of young Taoist and blocked his way. The defensive walls of the immortal Taoist scriptures blocked the power of the divine seal and the Emperor Xian outside. In other words, the Emperor Xian phantoms were unable to attack them. But these people could still. The shadow of the Emperor Xian's eyes turned cold, and he laughed. "I said you guys can't leave, right? Kill them." The young Taoist's gaze turned sinister as he looked at the ancient strong in front of him and said, "You better scram." Ancient strong laughed blandly. "What if I don't?" Young Taoist said, "Then die." Ancient strong said, "With just you?" At this moment, a descendant of God's tribe suddenly rushed towards Long Fei with a sneak attack. He bellowed, "What are you saying? Just kill him." This was a good opportunity to show off. As long as Long Fei was killed in front of the image of the Emperor Xian, he would definitely be recognized by the Emperor Xian. Boom! With a single step, his speed would be extremely fast. At least, Long Fei was currently unable to see his speed clearly. This was because his current cultivation was only at the soldier level 1. The center of young Taoist's brows tightened. All of his attention was focused on the defensive wall and this ancient strong in front of him. In a moment of desperation, young Taoist's body moved, blocking in front of Long Fei. The golden runes on his body exploded. Boom! Descendant of God's tribe chopped down heavily with one move. Boom! descendant of God's tribe, was forced to continuously retreat as blood wildly spurted out. Half of his body was crippled, and the groove of blood above his head had instantly bottomed out. Long Fei's eyes flashed with a trace of golden light. Opportunity. Ancient Strong's eyes flashed with a bright light. The defense on young Taoist's body loosened. Die. Rumble. Ancient Strong moved both his hands. A strong power whistled through the air before young Taoist could react and attack him heavily. Once young Taoist died, Long Fei was like a fish on the chopping board. One slash was enough to take his life. Descendant of God's tribe's sneak attack caused him to lose his balance. Although his reaction was extremely fast, it was still a mess. The power of the Ancient Strong attacked. His power instantly blocked it. However, while he was defending against the Ancient Strong's attack, the illusory Emperor Xian laughed sinisterly. Ha ha ha! The Zhen Tian divine seal flipped. Divine light shrouded the area. A strong power began to surge. The immortal Taoist scriptures' defensive wall was related to his mental energy. He was completely focused on the Ancient Strong, which meant that the current defensive wall was extremely weak. He wasn't sure if he could withstand the full pressure of the Zhen Tian divine seal. Haha, he's going to die. Little bastards, you two are the only two trash here dare to fight against Emperor Xian? Tremble. Haha. Many disciples and elders of the God's tribe began to laugh, because in the next second, Long Fei and the other two would die. It was also at this time. An elder looked at Long Fei and asked, "What does he want to do? What is he doing? He actually left the protection of the defensive wall. He must not want to live anymore." If a sneak attack was not important, the Ancient Strong's pincer attack was also not important. It didn't matter if the heaven-shaking divine seal's power increased again, because these young Taoists could still barely handle it. However, he had forgotten about Long Fei. Long Fei suddenly left his side at this time, which meant that Long Fei was trapped in a desperate situation. Young Taoist's eyes darkened, and he anxiously shouted, "Senior brother!" Long Fei acted as if he did not hear, and walked step by step to the side of the heavily injured descendant of God's tribe. He was very weak. However, the descendant of God's tribe was even weaker. Furthermore, the gash on his head only had a little bit of his HP remaining. "Senior brother, come back! Senior brother, come back! Senior brother!" the young Taoist shouted. Long Fei did not turn back, still walking forward. That descendant of God's tribe slightly shrunk and said, "Little bastard, what are you planning to do? What for?" No one knew. Even the shadow of the Emperor Xian could not understand what Long Fei was doing. However, no one thought he could do anything. What could a trash, with only the cultivation of a soldier, a seriously injured good-for-nothing, what could he do? There was nothing to be done. He can't be trying to kill someone, right? Huh, ha. A level 1 soldier trash can actually kill people? It scared me so much. Ha! Look at his useless appearance. Does he think that he can kill people? Now I can crush him with one finger. Any hair on my head is fine. Ha! Everyone in God's tribe mocked and despised him. The current Long Fei was not the Long Fei who had just started out. The aura on his body was low, and he was one of the lowest class. There was nothing to be done. Become the target of the descendant of God's tribe's mockery. They did not even take action to kill Long Fei because they wanted to see Long Fei make a fool of himself and ridicule them. "Senior brother, come back. Senior brother." Without waiting for young Taoist to shout again, the Zhen Tian divine seal fell down heavily. Young Taoist lowered his body and used all his strength to block the Zhen Tian divine seal. He simply could not reach Long Fei's side right now. He was burning with anxiety. Suddenly, Long Fei stopped. Everyone's gaze returned to him. The injured descendant of God's tribe laughed. "Trash, what are you stopping for? Do you miss your mother?" Ha ha! The little scum of the dragon race. Is this how Long Batian reincarnated? What a joke. Kid, kneel on the ground and tremble. Ha ha! Everyone was still mocking him. Just then, Long Fei suddenly grabbed a chair. What's the point of grabbing a chair? Sit down? No one could understand it. Actually, he really didn't want to grab a chair. He wanted to summon a dragon sword, but no, he did not even have the strength to bring up dragon sword. The same goes for sky sword. Right now, not only was he seriously injured with only a little bit of HP remaining, his mana was also depleted. No skills, no physical strength. There wasn't any mana, just like the mages in the game. He dragged the chair in front of the injured descendant of God's tribe. That disciple said, "Lame duck, you," not waiting for him to finish. All of a sudden, Long Fei's eyes stared intently. He grabbed the chair and smashed it onto the man's head. Bang! Walala! The disciple's eyes tensed up. He did not know that Long Fei would suddenly attack, but even if Long Fei attacked suddenly, it would be useless. Because this kind of attack, this kind of damage was impossible. Miss! A red MIS rose above his head. Descendant of God's tribe sneered and said, "This kind of strength isn't even enough to tickle me. Yet you want to kill me? You dog, you can." Walala! Another heavy smash. Miss. Still no damage. Because Long Fei's level was too low. A fighter rank 1 strength really couldn't even scratch an itch. However, Long Fei did not stop. One chair after another was smashed down without even saying a word. They were all using all of their strength, not holding back at all. Bang, bang, bang. Walala, walala. Consecutive attacks. However, it's always been the MIS damage. This made even more descendant of God's tribe laugh loudly. Ha ha, ha ha. This is the fiercest attack I've ever seen. Trash of a soldier level. You really want to kill someone? Brat, can you be a little more forceful? What do you count as now? You're really scaring us to death. Ha! Long Fei was just like a comical performer, causing everyone to burst out in laughter. The smashed descendant of God's tribe also had a face full of satisfaction and said, "Trash, use more strength, use more strength. Only your strength is too weak. Ha ha, kill me, quickly kill me. Ha ha." Continuously attacking, this sort of power was completely useless against him. He had been afraid at first, but now he didn't have to, because Long Fei's strength had not reached the level of injuring him at all. Even if he was currently heavily injured and his defense was weak, he still wasn't injured. But Long Fei's level was too low. His damage was negligible because he wouldn't be able to injure it at all. Even so, Long Fei was still fighting with all his might. It could be said he was going to risk it all even more. If this continued, he would kill the undying descendant of God's tribe, and his little bit of HP would definitely be used up due to him overexerting himself. Even so, Long Fei still ignored them. It crazily smashed down. He roared in his heart, a bit. I only need a bit of critical damage. A bit is enough. After standing here for so many years with great difficulty, if I were to be beaten back to my original form, how long would I have to wait? How much time do I have left? How long can I last? Long Fei's memories were suppressed by the seal, and he couldn't remember how many times he had to face the Emperor Xian. But he didn't want to do it again. When young Taoist brought him away, he was extremely unwilling. However, he had no other choice. Seeing that the descendant of God's tribe who had ambushed him was out of health, his eyes flashed with a light. He still had a big move that he had not used yet. His big move was leveling up. He had been waiting, suppressing himself all this while. Even when he had killed Outer Space Powerhouse, he did not manage to obtain a rank. Just for today, because upgrade meant revival. Upgrade is full. Any one of them had a higher cultivation base than him. As long as he killed a person, he would be able to heal the wounds on his body if he killed them himself. If his injuries were healed, then he would be able to unleash the power of eternity, the body of Taudi, and the power of the infinite boxing, and he would be able to become the Emperor Xian again. If he couldn't even beat a shadow, then even if he could escape this time, how could he behave like this in the future? Long Fei roared. It roared like a madman. Facing these presbyter of God's tribe and facing the ridicule from the disciples, he clenched his teeth until it cracked, tightly holding onto the chair with both of his hands and smashing it heavily. Critical hit. Give me a critical strike. The descendant of God's tribe laughed. Trash. I am a powerhouse of the gods' holy state. Who do you think you are? You can kill me? You can't even fight for 10,000 years. Ha ha! While he was laughing maniacally. After Long Fei struck down with such a heavy blow, his health was no longer able to endure. His chair crashed down. Walala! This time, there were no English letters floating above the descendant of God's tribe's head. Instead, a dazzling number appeared. 1. As long as it happened once, it was good that it happened once. As long as it happened once, it was good that it happened once. Long Fei's cultivation was too low. Unless he unleashed a critical strike, it would not be able to cause any harm to descendant of God's tribe. As long as it was a critical hit, there would definitely be damage. It was impossible for the system to set the critical hit to MIS. As long as it was a critical hit, the system would agree to the damage. So critical hit was especially important. A critical strike appeared. The damage floated up from the top of the descendant of God's tribe's head, and at this moment, the descendant of God's tribe's eyes suddenly bulged. The last bit of HP was reduced to 0. Yizichin rolled his eyes. Dead. The surrounding people were stunned. They didn't know why Long Fei risked his life to kill this disciple who didn't have any importance in the God's tribe. So what if they killed him? He was just a character on the periphery. Nothing could change his mind. So what if we kill him? Pulling a cushion before death. I have 2 words for him, her. Ha! His brain must be full of shit. The people of God's tribe were still mocking him, because they knew that Long Fei couldn't change anything. At the same time, a few descendant of God's tribe rushed to Long Fei's front and revealed cold smiles of contempt, and said, Trash! Do you think that it's so amazing that you've killed a God's holy state descendant of God's tribe? Warrior rank. Ha! This is the most useless person I've ever met. If it wasn't for you standing here, you wouldn't even be qualified to be killed by me. 3 descendant of God's tribe stood beside Long Fei. The spirit chi on his body moved and was about to attack Long Fei. But at this moment, shoo! Long Fei did a silent action. He then closed his eyes and muttered, Come, let's revive where we are. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing descendant of God's tribe. Do you wish to absorb its cultivation? The system rang out with an incomparably wonderful prompt. This time, Long Fei did not consider any further. The idea moved yes. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for successfully absorbing it. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Sky Saint level 1. Boom! The aura in his body trembled, and his attributes changed. His strength had increased, his physical body had become stronger, and he was becoming stronger in all aspects. This was secondary. The most important thing was the health point. Revert to full state. Blue capacity returned to full state. The key point was his wounds. The injuries from being crushed by the Zhentian Divine Seal were all healed completely. There was no pain. He had been completely resurrected on the spot. To a veteran gamer, this was a bug existence. As long as it was upgraded, everything would be restored to its peak state. When paired with the killing system, as long as he could use it well, Long Fei would still be in immortal existence. His cultivation base. Why did it suddenly become a god's holy state? What was going on? Impossible. No one has ever cultivated so quickly. 1 second was warrior realm, and this second was God's holy state. That's impossible. The aura around Long Fei changed, and the surrounding people immediately felt it. It was all incredible. A disciple said with a heavy voice, So what if you have the God's holy state? They all have to die. Boom! With his explosive power, he suddenly rushed towards Long Fei. Rumble. The powerful pressure in the air let out a roar and then pressed down heavily. The corner of Long Fei's mouth curled up as he coldly laughed, and his right hand sank. Crack! The infinite boxing once again appeared in his hands. The infinite boxing did not consume any energy, but it needed Long Fei's physical support. When Long Fei was heavily injured, he was unable to use the infinite boxing at all. The control of the idea appeared in an instant. Body of Taoti. Boom. Kacha. After a series of sounds, Long Fei's entire body was covered by the blood-red scales of the Taotai. Buzz. Inside the pubes, the unique devouring power of the Taotai appeared and formed a mini black holes, which started to revolve. Boom! On his right arm, a unique energy began to burn. Furthermore, it was directly set ablaze. Power of eternity. Although it was hard to control, although he could not, but Long Fei was strong. Regardless of that, he had to release the power of eternity first. In practically an instant, Long Fei recovered back to the peak realm. Bam! Descendant of God's tribe's attack fell, and his palm smashed into the center of Long Fei's brows. Long Fei did not dodge. Let him attack. The palm of his hand touched upon the center of Long Fei's brows, his power dense. But Long Fei did not move. Not only that, Long Fei was not injured. That descendant of God's tribe seemed to have become impotent in a moment. The power in his body quickly shrank and drained away. He could not control it at all. Long Fei then sneered sinisterly. What did you say just now? Who's the trash? This voice. When descendant of God's tribe heard this, his heart twitched, and his face instantly became pale. Seeing the look in Long Fei's eyes, Long Fei, who looked like a god of death, returned. He was so frightened that he could not speak. Long Fei asked, "What is your cultivation level? Heavenly Saint level 2? Descendant of God's tribe shook his head. Long Fei asked, "Even higher? Heavenly Saint level 8? The descendant of God's tribe nodded. Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "Very good. You should thank yourself for your cultivation and thank the Heavenly Saint level 8. If you are not as good as the God's holy state, then you are already dead." The Heavenly Saint level 8 was higher than Long Fei's current level. After absorbing the power, he had been crippled. Just a light move was enough to kill him, but Long Fei did not kill him because, keep it for later, his body moved. Long Fei rushed forward with all his might. "Old man Emperor Xian, I'm here." Rumble, rumble, rumble. He once again charged towards the Emperor Xian simulacrum like crazy. He did not know how Long Fei was able to suddenly recover such a great power, but he knew one thing. If this child is not eliminated today, then he will definitely become a threat in the future. Long Fei's potential was too strong. Every time he appeared, he would become many times stronger. This time, even when facing a martial saint-level divine treasure, he was still able to resist and once again madly rushed out. Die. The figure of the Emperor Xian let out a single word. The Zhun Tian divine seal flipped. Combined with a few other ancient code, it crushed towards Long Fei. Long Fei's fists sank as he roared like thunder. Ah! The infinite boxing exploded towards the Emperor Xian simulacrum. The crushing power of the laws shattered. At the same time, Long Fei's pubes had once again finished filling up, and his anger value had erupted. Boom! 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 The infinite boxing began to burn even more ferociously than before. Then, he poured it into the power of eternity. Long Fei roared, "Die!" The scarlet, burning glove released a sound as it suppressed the Zhun Tian divine seal. This time, he wasn't instantly crushed. Instead, he rushed towards the Zhun Tian divine seal with incomparable ferocity and struck it with his fist heavily. Rumble! The burning flames of the infinite boxing smashed onto the Zhun Tian divine seal. The burning flames of the infinite boxing smashed onto the Zhun Tian divine seal. At this moment, the whole world seemed to have stopped moving. There was no sound at all. Everything froze at that moment. The eyes of the illusory Emperor Xian tightened. Rumble! The Zhun Tian divine seal slightly trembled. At this moment, the sky split open in all four directions, and cracks spread out in the sky like streaks of lightning. Shockwaves shot out in all directions. Using that diamond-shaped pattern, it instantly shot out in all directions. The scene was simply too shocking. It was extremely shocking. The collision of power was actually able to reach such a level. The collapse of the shrine caused the entire heavenly realm to crack, as they were completely unable to withstand the impact of this power. All of the descendant of God's tribe S, elders, and ancient strong S were stunned. They looked at the sky in shock, as if they were incomparably weak ants. At this moment, their fate was entirely in the hands of others. Their minds were trembling and their seas of consciousness were cowering, but their bodies didn't dare to move. Rumble! The Jun Tian divine seal began to tremble faster. Ah! Long Fei roared hysterically once again and punched out with his fist again. Break for me. Boom! His strength exploded out again. The Qingyan realm was even more powerful. The Jun Tian divine seal trembled again. Boom! Long Fei heavily punched out yet again, unable to increase his speed. Although the Jun Tian divine seal was trembling, at the same time, he was also feeling very uncomfortable. If it wasn't for the infinite boxing, his hand probably wouldn't even have a bone left. The power of the Jun Tian divine seal was too strong. Not to mention Ji Zun. Even a peak would be crushed to dust in an instant. One must know, this supreme divine treasure came from the ancient world. They were famous for their brutality in the ancient world. How could the power of its suppression be small? Long Fei endured enormous pain as his health point rapidly decreased, but so what? That's it. Bang, bang, bang. Fist after fist blasted out. No matter how much pain he had to endure, Long Fei had never thought of giving up. The Jun Tian divine seal continued to tremble. He was forced to retreat continuously by Long Fei. However, although it had suffered from the strong power of the infinite boxing, it had not broken apart, and its strength had not weakened. Seeing that, Emperor Xian's pupils shrank, and he clenched his fists tightly. Anger appeared in his eyes. He was furious. He was truly infuriated. Ancient world. Emperor Xian also suddenly stood up, clenching his fists tightly. How preposterous. The other two men were also instantly stunned. What's going on? Could it be that my Jun Tian divine seal is unable to suppress the trash of a universal realm? Emperor Xian said, I underestimated him. These words meant, the Jun Tian divine seal really did not suppress Long Fei. The white-haired man frowned. There is actually such a powerful being in the universal realm. Why don't we know? Who is he? Emperor Xian said, It's normal that you guys don't know him. I have never placed him in my eyes before. He is also an ant-like existence. Only, now think about it. I'm afraid he had something to do with both of you. His shadow was in the hall of Emperor Xian, and he knew everything it faced, as well as its words. He started because he was not Long Baishan's reincarnation. Because it was impossible for Long Baishan's reincarnation to become the body of a trash from the warrior realm, but from the looks of it, it really was possible. The white-haired man immediately asked, Who is he? Emperor Xian replied, He's from the dragon race. Dragon clan? The white-haired man paused slightly. He didn't feel shocked at all, because in his eyes, the dragon race was like ants right now. One step could stomp over the entire dragon race. Too weak. The same was true for the other man. The current ancient world's dragon race did not even have the qualifications to die at their hands. However, the Emperor Xian continued. He is Long Baishan's reincarnation. As soon as he finished, the two men instantly stood up. Their battle intent turned into 100,000 li of flames, and all the surrounding vegetation withered, and died in an instant. A radius of 5 kilometers. He directly became a deathland, without a single living being. This power, for words to describe it, terrifying. The white-haired man's voice trembled, not because he was afraid, but because he was excited, the killing intent in his eyes burning hotly. Long Baishan's reincarnation? Emperor Xian, is what you said true? Long Batian, did he reincarnate? If the Emperor Xian didn't tell him, he definitely wouldn't have believed him. Impossible. Long Batian was suppressed by the repression of boundary stones. There is no way he can reincarnate using his profound qi. Unless he foresaw what would happen after that before he was suppressed. If that's the case, he did not continue, because if that was the case, Then this long Batian was too terrifying. This arrangement of his was extremely frightening. How strong was the layout of 1,000,000,000 years? It was unimaginable. Emperor Xian said, I'm not 100% sure. It is just a rumor. However, this brat does have some outstanding points. After returning from cultivating in the outer realm, he carried some strength that I have never seen before. As for whether or not it is Long Baishan's reincarnation, no one knows. The white-haired man heaved a sigh of relief and said, Master's mission is to find Long Baishan's corpse. As long as we can find his corpse, everything will be known. Another man said, a mission is a mission, but if that brat is really Long Baishan's reincarnation, I can't not kill him. The hatred in his eyes was especially intense. He could not forget how Long Batian had crushed him back then, and how she had stuffed him into the seal. The white-haired man asked, what do you want to do? The man said, we will continue our mission and find Long Baishan's body, but that brat must be killed. Emperor Xian said, both of you, don't worry. Even though he endured the pressure from the Zhen Tian divine seal, but I assure you, I will never let him live. The man said, Emperor Xian, can I lend you a drop of spirit blood? Emperor Xian's gaze tensed up. Something like spirit blood was extremely important to any powerhouse, because to powerhouse, they would be able to see a person's entire strength, potential, and talent. The man said, don't worry, I just want your spirit blood to find your location and create a small-scale teleportation formation. I want to teleport my image over as well. The white-haired man said, and mine, I also want to see what's so special about that kid. If he is really Long Baishan's reincarnation, I would definitely not let him live. Emperor Xian slightly moved. A drop of spirit blood floated up. The man took it and muttered to himself. He formed a seal with one hand. And then, he muttered, open it for me. Buzz. His figure moved. The illusory image of the white-haired man moved as well, entering the teleportation location. Subdue. Subdue. The Zhen Tian divine seal's power struck down again. Long Fei's body sank. Rumble. To be forced to the ground by the strength of a Zhen Tian divine seal. He was suppressed once again. He didn't know how many times this happened, but Long Fei did not stop at all, his gaze sweeping across and immediately rushing out, grabbing onto one of the descendant of God's tribe's hair and asked, what is your cultivation level? A few of the descendant of God's tribe were exhausted and sickly to the point of death. These people were all drained of their profound qi due to Long Fei's power of Tao Tai. The gash on their heads had almost completely dried up. There was only a tiny bit of blood left. One hit was enough to instantly kill them. The descendant of God's tribe in Long Fei's hands gasped for breath and said, Heavenly Saint, ninth level. He wasn't finished. You. Long Fei's fist exploded out. Instant kill. Ding. Congratulations to the player, Long Fei, for killing descendant of God's tribe and releasing the acquired power. Yes, sir. The idea moved. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Sky Saint level, 9. Boom. His strength increased once again. He recovered his HP, mana, and stamina. Everything seemed to have been resurrected in place. Rumble. Both of his fists sank, releasing the infinite boxing once again, both eyes staring at the floating Zhen Tian divine seal that was already cracking up. Long Fei rubbed his nose. Damn it, if this daddy doesn't break you this time, this daddy will have the same surname as you. Strength burst forth. The Tao Tai red blood bee's scales covered its entire body. The many black holes in the pubes began to circulate. The power of eternity was once again released by Long Fei. With a roar, Long Fei rushed out madly. Rumble. He threw his fist backwards, striking towards the Zhen Tian divine seal. The Emperor Xian narrowed his eyes. He has once again recovered to his peak. What exactly is going on? Devouring energy? Even if it's devouring power, even if it could devour a person's cultivation base, but it's also impossible for him to heal his pain during the process of swallowing. What exactly is he hiding? He didn't understand. He didn't have time to think about it. No matter how much Long Fei revived himself or how much stronger he became, the only thing he had to do was to go up once, land on the ground. And there would be a time when he would be able to kill Long Fei. The illusory image of the Emperor Xian did not understand Long Fei, the elders, disciples, and the powerhouse either. Stunned as a wooden chicken, a few times in a row, with a difference of less than half a minute, Long Fei, who had been smashed to the ground, was heavily injured. Was he even human? Even a god wouldn't be able to do that. Even if they were given a brain of 10,000, with their IQ increased by 10,000, they still wouldn't be able to understand how Long Fei did all these. They had no idea what the system was. He didn't know what the power of the game was. He had no idea what an AI was. Killing to level up, reaching their maximum capacity, they were dumbfounded. Rumble. The instant his fist made contact with the Zhen Tian Divine Seal. The power of the Zhen Tian Divine Seal came down like thunder. Boom! With the contact of the fist, the many black holes started to revolve and devour. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the many black holes' energy was completely filled. Boom! Golden flames burst forth. Angry open. With a loud sound, Long Fei's anger value burned up, and there was a minute or so of berserk mode. His strength increased explosively. Flames of fury directly burned out from the infinite boxing. Long Fei began attacking the Zhen Tian Divine Seal like a violent storm. Bang, 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 bang. The number of combo attacks continuously increased. 372 combo, 1600 combo, 8,700 combo. The Zhen Tian Divine Seal was having a hard time. It kept retreating, unable to take Long Fei's berserk mode. At the same time, the crushing power beneath the Zhen Tian Divine Seal was also becoming weaker and weaker. The entire hall of Emperor Xian could clearly feel that the Zhen Tian Divine Seal's strength was collapsing. He bellowed and attacked ferociously. Crack! With a crisp sound, the Zhen Tian Divine Seal's cracks split open again. The power in the Divine Seal was like a deflated ball. While he's sick, take his life. Suppress me 4 times. If I don't die, you die. This was the chance. Long Fei would never miss it. Hugging both of his fists, the infinite boxing merged together and burst into flames. He then chopped down with his axe. Extinguish. Rumble. Rumble. Unable to take it, the infinite boxing immediately split into 4. Just like that, ancient world's sovereign realm holy artifact was smashed into pieces by Long Fei. How crazy was this? The people of Hall of Emperor Xian were immediately scared silly. This. Did the Divine Seal break? That's impossible. His cultivation is only at God's holy state. How is that possible? What does he want to do? Long Fei, who was floating in mid-air, locked his gaze onto the Emperor Xian. His eyes darkened. Now, it's your turn. Go to hell. Once the Zhen Tian Divine Seal was annihilated, it would become the illusion of the Emperor Xian. Regardless if Emperor Xian is here or not, in any case, all the people of God's tribe had to die. Bam! The space under Long Fei's feet cracked and burst outwards. The illusory image of the Emperor Xian was still quietly floating in midair. It did not try to dodge, nor was it stunned by the fact that Long Fei had destroyed the Zhen Tian Divine Seal. It was as if nothing had happened at all. He did not care about it at all. His eyes became even colder. He watched as Long Fei charged towards him. In his sleeves, he slightly rolled up his sleeves. He clenched his 5 fingers. Walala! A long chain suddenly dropped down. Without waiting for Long Fei to come close, the shadow of the Emperor Xian said with a slight movement, I also admire your brainless impulsiveness. I have to say, in your dragon clan, you are more courageous and courageous than that Long Wuxian. Your impulses will only bring destruction to the dragons and bring destruction to those around you to perish. It's you today. They will soon be your brothers and friends in the universal realm, the women, the dragon race in the ancient world, and your father who is imprisoned in the Dragon Abyss dungeon. These people will pay the price for your brainlessness today. As soon as he finished, The chain in the Emperor Xian's hand suddenly extended outwards. Walala! In an instant, it directly locked on a Long Fei's throat. They simply did not give Long Fei a chance to react. No matter how fast he reacted, it was useless. The speed of the Emperor Xian's simulacrum was even faster, and also, the chain in his hand was also the supreme artifact of the ancient world. Soul Lock Chain. This Soul Lock Chain was crafted from the bones of the infernal realm's deities, possessing the power to destroy souls. It was locked. Then he wouldn't be able to live. Long Fei's mind tightened. His soul instantly felt as though it was blocked off. His entire soul couldn't move at all. It was incomparably uncomfortable. F***CK. 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 Long Fei shouted these vulgar words. He did not resist. His soul was locked in place. He had to break free from his body. At the same time, when the soul lock chain held onto his body, it also moved towards the side of the Emperor Xian's simulacrum. He was approaching the illusory image of the Emperor Xian. Thus, Long Fei did not resist. Even though his soul was locked up, he wouldn't die in a short period of time. As long as he could get close to the shadow of the Emperor Xian, the endless barrage of infinite boxing yes. Walala! The sound of the chain exploding sounded out, as if it was the hell chain that belonged to a death knight. It pulled on Long Fei's throat and dragged him down heavily, causing him to be unable to stand still as he staggered and threw himself at the Emperor Xian's illusion. The illusory Emperor Xian sneered. You think you are very strong? You think you can contend against me? Long Beishan's reincarnation? In my eyes, you have always been a lame duck. The reason I didn't kill you in the past was because you didn't even have the qualifications to be killed by me. However, you have the qualifications today. The shadow of the Emperor Xian firmly suppressed Long Fei. The people of God's tribe also heaved a sigh of relief and cheered excitedly. Emperor Xian is mighty and domineering. Kill him. Kill this little bastard. Emperor Xian, you can't let him escape. Hang his head at the entrance of the shrine, so those people can see clearly that this is the result of going against our God's tribe. Just beheading him is not enough. I want to use his bones to refine it and use his blood essence to feed the dog. I want to use his skin to make a human skin chair. I want to make his soul forever reverberate in the abyss, so that he will never be able to reincarnate. The people of God's tribe could not wait to eat Long Fei's flesh and drink his blood. They all wanted to use some cruel method to deal with him. Long Fei frightened them quite a bit. If not for the fact that the shadow of the Emperor Xian had arrived in time, the God's tribe would have already been destroyed. There was no one who could stop Long Fei. Thinking of this, the people of God's tribe hated him even more. Senior brother, young Taoist let out a heavy cry. Rumble. Golden symbols flew out one after another. He rushed straight towards the shadow of the Emperor Xian. However, the golden runes were unable to approach the illusory image of the Emperor Xian. There was a layer of air shield on his body. The young Taoist didn't think too much and directly shouted, Explode! Rumble! The immortal Taoist scriptures' symbols exploded one by one. A powerful force burst out. The Origin Law shield continued to shatter. However, the shadow of the Emperor Xian was still standing proudly in midair, looking like a god as it coldly glanced at the young Taoist and said with disdain, Your power is not bad, but you're still too weak to break my power of law. Indeed, this is the universal realm. There is an independent power of law here. If one could not transcend the power of the laws of this world, then the power released by the young Taoist would not be able to harm the illusion of the Emperor Xian. At this moment, young Taoist had already landed beside Long Fei. With a move of his hands, he grabbed onto the soul lock chain. Slash! The entire soul lock chain began to burn with blue flames. Zhang Xian's hands loosened immediately. His palm was scalded. Moreover, poison. Young Taoist's pupils contracted. Undead fire? The shadow of the Emperor Xian trembled and said, You have some knowledge to actually know about the undead fire. This chain is made from the bones of the god of death, Whoever uses it to lock the person will end up dead. Don't be impatient. First him, then you. Anyone who has anything to do with him must die. When the God's tribe did things, they would eliminate the roots, leaving no leeway. Just like the Ming clan back then. Basically, all of them were killed, leaving behind Ming clan disciples who hid somewhere else. And these people were still being hunted by God's tribe all the time. As long as Long Fei was suppressed or died. Then the Emperor Xian will definitely kill everyone who is related to Long Fei. This was the Emperor Xian, the person who had stood at the peak of this world for 1,000,000,000,000 years. It was also because of this method that his God's tribe was able to control over 10,000 planes. Young Taoist was not scared. He had reincarnated 6 times. What did he not experience? How could he not be scared by a mere illusion of an Emperor Xian? Moreover, his strength was not this. The young Taoist stared at the defensive shield on the Emperor Xian's figure. Law power? The power of the laws of this world? I'll let you experience the power of the Hall of Eternal Life's laws. Boom! The robe fluttered, and a power surged out. The entire hall of Emperor Xian began to tremble violently, and the entire God's tribe began to tremble. Just when the young Taoist had activated the laws above the universal realm, Long Fei shook his head lightly and sent a sound transmission to him. Let me. Young Taoist was stunned. Long Fei said again, This is my problem. Let me settle it. The death of the dragon ancestor made Long Fei have no choice but to kill all of the God's tribe's people. The aura on young Taoist's body slightly decreased. The Emperor Xian started laughing coldly. Ha ha ha. His posture is not bad, but it's a pity that his strength is a bit lacking. Little bastard, kill him first, then you. The chain was pulled. Walala. Long Fei staggered again and almost fell to the ground. His soul was also completely crushed, bit by bit, as if he was leaving his body. It was very hard. However, Long Fei was enduring. He was waiting for the opportunity to get close. Walala. The illusory image of the Emperor Xian shook once again. He really liked the way Long Fei staggered and fell. Ha ha, little bastard. Look at what you look like now. Does it look like a dog? The dragon race is the God tribe's dog. You dog are more like one, Crash. With another heavy delay, Long Fei staggered yet again. The Emperor Xian started laughing maniacally. Ha ha ha. With a pull of the chain, he pulled Long Fei right in front of him. His eyes darkened, and his voice became even more sinister as he said with a heavy voice, Kneel down. His voice was filled with immense power. Long Fei did not kneel, but those descendant of God's tribe all knelt down, one after another. Even those ancient strong also knelt down. The pressure was simply too strong. He had to kneel. Only by kneeling down would he be able to feel free, and that powerful pressure would disappear from his heart. However, Long Fei raised his eyes slightly, the corners of his mouth raised, and laughed sinisterly. Kneel? Ha ha. The laughter was incomparably cold, just like the laughter from the god of death. Why aren't you looking at the distance between us? Long Fei's sinister sneer caused the illusory Emperor Xian to shudder. He didn't know why. His body suddenly trembled. Trembling? This was something that hadn't happened in billions of years. He had no idea what it meant to be afraid, and even more so, there wouldn't be any trembling happening to him. However, he had been trembling just now. Long Fei's eyes suddenly widened. This is the distance of your death. The power of eternal life explode out from me. The power of eternal life explode out from me. The power of eternal life explode out from me. A hysterical roar. The power of eternity suddenly transformed. The ignited power of eternity on Long Fei's right arm disappeared and transformed into another wave of energy. This energy also poured into the infinite boxing in an instant. The infinite boxing that was already burning instantly underwent a mutation as well after being infused with the ability of immortality. The burning flames instantly turned black, the color of death. Young Taoist was immediately shocked, his mouth agape as he looked at Long Fei. Immortal ability? This Is this the power of the second stage of power of eternity that Master mentioned? No, 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 no. This is impossible. Senior brother just started to cultivate his power of eternity. He just stepped into the threshold, and continuously using the power of eternity this entire time had already expended too much of his profound chi. It is impossible for him to advance the power of eternity again at a time like this. Young Taoist had an expression of disbelief, because it was simply impossible for Long Fei, whose power of eternity had not yet been completely grasped, to advance to become an immortal. This was completely illogical. Without cultivating, how could he possibly advance his cultivation? Not to mention the young Taoist. Even Long Fei himself was the same. His heart was also befuddled. He only wanted to use the infinite boxing's combo attack to destroy the illusion of the Emperor Xian. But at that instant, he immediately let out a furious roar and released the power of the second stage of the power of eternity for some unfathomable reason. Moreover, the moment he released his power, his mind trembled, and the soul lock chain that bound his soul instantly shattered. Strength was not above the same level. This feeling could only be described by one word: delightful. Long Fei did not think about how the power of eternity could be upgraded, nor did he think about the aftereffects of using his immortal energy. First, he would fumble through the Emperor Xian's phantoms. As for the others, let's talk about it after it was done. Below the guillotine, Long Fei's clone, with a 39-long blade, cut the guillotine in two. At this moment, he was frantically absorbing the guillotine's power. But what surprised him was that the energy he absorbed, very little, not much. It should be said that he had absorbed a massive amount of energy, but in that instant, the energy inexplicably turned into another type of energy that disappeared within his body. Very strange. This had never happened to him before. However, he did not think too much. As the guillotine was destroyed, he did not stay any longer, and with a step, he jumped up and directly stood at the entrance of the shrine. Ninth Heaven Guillotine, HNG, HNG. I once said that I would crush this place. Long Fei's clone was in high spirits. He had finally fulfilled the oath he had sworn all those years ago. It was clean. Standing at the entrance of the shrine, he stepped in. At this moment, Long Fei's clone's gaze tensed up and instantly stared at a certain direction. At this moment, the Wild King carried the Devil's Bat Leaks on his shoulder and looked at Long Fei without moving. The first time he saw him, Wild King felt very familiar, but he knew that he had never seen this person before. Long Fei's gaze tensed up. Someone from the God's tribe? Kuang Wang shook his head and asked, "Enemy?" Long Fei also shook his head and said, "You want to stop me?" Kuang Wang still shook his head and asked, "What are you doing here?" Long Fei said indifferently, "Kill." Kuang Wang's pupil shrank as he stared into Long Fei's eyes. After pausing for a few seconds, he started to laugh loudly. "So it's a friendly army. I thought it was an enemy army." He could see the killing intent in Long Fei's eyes. This kind of killing intent cannot be faked. It could also determine that Long Fei's identity was definitely not someone from the God's tribe. However, the Savage King seemed carefree, but his heart was as meticulous as a feather. He was incomparably cautious because he had to be cautious with the person in front of him. Because it was very strong, Long Fei said, "Are you trying to kill the God's tribe as well?" Kuang Wang looked at the hall of Emperor Xian in the distance that had sunk down for a long period of time and said, "My boss is inside." "Your boss?" Long Fei asked with interest. "Who is it?" "The future Eternal Lord. His name is—" Not waiting for him to finish. Rumble. The hall of Emperor Xian released a loud sound. The hall of Emperor Xian emitted black light from all directions. The hall was about to split open. Kuang Wang laughed. Is this power really that strong?" Long Fei looked over and nodded. "That's right." A shiver went down his spine. "Hey, what's going on? Why do I feel like this power was lost from my body? I've never cultivated this kind of power before." It was a very strange feeling. Long Fei did not understand. "My boss is currently in a berserk state. If he wants to fight God's tribe all by himself, he won't allow us to interfere at all. I think it's better if you stay here and watch the show with me." The person in front of him was very strong. Kuang Wang did not want him to approach the hall of Emperor Xian, as this would pose an additional threat to Long Fei. As for Long Fei, as long as the young Taoist was here, Long Fei would definitely not die. The Wild King had confidence in the young Taoist. Long Fei looked at the hall of Emperor Xian, shrugged his shoulders, and said, "Fine. Anyway, I'm very lazy, so it's fine if someone does it for me. But I don't know if your boss will be able to do it, but this is the place where the ancient world is connected to, where the first powerhouse of Hongmeng is, or even further away, where the number 1 Emperor Xian of the ancient realm is." He was afraid that the person inside might not be able to bear it. Kuang Wang grinned and said, "Don't worry. Looking at the current situation, no one in Shrine is a match for my boss." Long Fei curiously looked at the Wild King, and he was secretly shocked in his heart. This person is not simple. Hall of Emperor Xian. The infinite boxing began to go berserk as the power of immortality entered it. In an instant, the soul lock chain was reduced to dust. With a step forward, he stood in front of the Emperor Xian's simulacrum, his lips curled as he said sinisterly, "Now, when it came to you," one word at a time. Each word was filled with killing intent. The eyes of the illusory Emperor Xian suddenly contracted, without waiting for him to react. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The combo had already begun. He was originally a shadow, formed by the Emperor Xian, and had no substance. He was just a shadow existence. How could a shadow attack him? It shouldn't have hurt at all. But the infinite boxing that had been infused with the power of immortality formed a concave shape with its fist, as if it had been punched by the real face. Then bang, bang, bang. A crazy combo. Beat him to death. The power released from every punch split Hall of Emperor Xian apart. Not worthy to fight with you. Not qualified to be in your hands. Is it good enough now? Who doesn't have the qualifications now? Emperor Xian, you son of a bitch. You made me start all over again several times. I've been holding back my anger all this time. You son of a bitch. Long Fei cursed crazily. At the same time, it was also crazily attacking. The Emperor Xian's simulacrum did not have the energy to resist and was crazily beaten up by Long Fei in the end. The simulacrum started to crack, and the energy from Emperor Xian's body started to dissipate. Ancient world. Emperor Xian's eyes were blazing with fire. How preposterous. You too. I need to go back to Universal Realm. Emperor Xian got up to leave. The other two immediately stood up. The white-haired man said, "Brother Xian, my third brother, and I have already left. Even if he is really the reincarnation of Long Batian with extraordinary strength, as long as he does not step into the ancient world one day, his cultivation will not be able to recover to the peak. The two of us will definitely become illusory." Emperor Xian got up to leave. The other two immediately stood up. The white-haired man said, "Brother Xian, my third brother, and I have already left. Even if he is really the reincarnation of Long Batian with extraordinary strength, as long as he does not step into the ancient world one day, his cultivation will not be able to recover to the peak. The two of us will definitely become illusory. If you kill him, you can be at ease." The other man said, "You're right. This is a critical moment. If you leave now, the following matter will be very disadvantageous to our Lord. You should know your Lord's temper very well. We have endured Long Batian's reincarnation. What can't you endure? He's going to die soon anyway." The two of them were very confident. Confidence came from one's own strength. The two of them were about to reach Universal Realm. There was no need for Emperor Xian to leave right now. Moreover, he couldn't leave now either. Emperor Xian's gaze tensed up as he frowned. The white-haired man asked, "You can't let those clansmen of yours go? Brother Xian, you are someone who will leave the ancient world sooner or later. It is time for you to leave your clansmen behind. It is enough that you have protected them for 1,000,000,000,000 years." Another man said, "The powerhouse cannot have any shackles. Relatives are the biggest stumbling block for the powerhouse. Your clansmen will only become your burden and protect them. You might not be able to break through the shackles of the ancient world your entire life." The two of them said. The originally angry Emperor, Xian, also calmed down. Indeed, he had guarded the gods' tribe for long enough already. To have made them act arrogantly for 1,000,000,000 years, that was enough time. Then again, as long as the figures of these two people could reach the shrine, then it would be useless even if Long Fei was truly the reincarnation of Long Batian. This was because Long Batian, who had not stepped into the ancient world, was not called Long Batian. Half a minute passed. Emperor Xian let out a deep breath and said, "Master's mission is more important. I'll listen to you guys." The two of them smiled and said, "That's right. Brother Xian, don't worry. If we rush to that boy's place, we will die, and no one can harm your descendants from the gods' tribe. You can just bring us to find the corpse of the ancient Ashura's abyss Long Batian peacefully. My lord is very concerned about this matter." Emperor Xian nodded his head. "I got it. I was being too impulsive just now. Master's mission was too important. I will bring you guys into the ancient Ashura abyss right now. However, I have a question I don't understand." The white-haired man said. "How can I not understand?" Emperor Xian asked. "Why does Master want Long Batian's corpse? A person who has died for tens of millions of years, no matter how strong he is, what can his corpse possibly have?" He could not understand. Moreover, time flowed by. Stellar transposition. Was the former powerhouse still the powerhouse after trillions of years? Not necessarily. Thus, in the heart of the Emperor Xian, Long Batian wasn't much of a threat, and he even had the confidence that if Long Batian was in front of him, he would definitely be able to kill him. The white-haired man smiled and said, "My lord naturally has his own goal. We, the servants, only need to accomplish the mission. But, since you asked, I'll tell you. Actually, Master does not want Long Batian's corpse, but rather the repression of boundary stones that is suppressing his body. As for this piece of repression of boundary stones," the white-haired man, did not continue. There were all kinds of legends regarding the repression of boundary stones. Some people said he was the heart of the ancient world, some said he was a powerhouse from another realm, and some even said that the repression of boundary stones was a universe-divine stone with the strongest power. Whoever could unlock it would be able to obtain this power and suppress all other powers. Repression of boundary stones? Emperor Xian thought for a moment and turned his head to look at the direction of Universal Realm. The man replied, "Don't worry. It will be fine. With the avatars of the two of us, that kid is going to die." Emperor Xian laughed dryly and then led the two into the darkness. In the darkness, ghosts roared and hell cried. The most ferocious place in the ancient world, and also one of the 3 forbidden grounds, the Ashura's abyss. High and mighty, God's tribe is the sky, is the god. Your F. Astor's king awesome. You F. Astor's king called your real face over here. Long Fei violently thrashed him, also crazily venting the anger in his heart. The shadow of the Emperor Xian was stepped on by him. Punch, punch, and punch. The Emperor Xian phantom shadow had been beaten to the point where he could only resist, unable to resist at all. The entire hall of Emperor Xian was being suppressed by the aura emitted from Long Fei's body. Those descendant of gods, tribes, and elders all had ugly expressions and did not dare to make a single sound. Their haughtiness, and the haughtiness that they were born with had all shattered under Long Fei's fist. The illusion of the Emperor Xian was reduced to such a state. How strong was this kid? Once the Emperor Xian phantoms died, they would be next. At this moment, they no longer dared to have that kind of aloof and arrogant expression. All of their bodies were curled up, and none of them dared to look up, as if they were afraid that Long Fei would send them to hell with a single punch. They trembled. Even though he was kneeling on the ground, his body still couldn't help but tremble. Emperor Xian, come back quickly. Lord Emperor Xian, come back quickly. Master, come back quickly. They had never been so afraid. The ancient world-s were trembling in fear, and their faces turned pale. He felt that Long Fei was now the god of death. Moreover, it was the kind of crazy death god. They did not dare to move. Bang, bang, bang. Boom, boom, boom. Long Fei attacked ferociously. The infinite boxing's power was incomparably strong, and the illusory image of the Emperor Xian could no longer withstand it as its power dissipated. At the same time, his body was cracking. Although he was just a shadow, he had a long, bloody groove above his head. At this moment, the groove was almost empty. Emperor Xian, come out real face. Boom! Long Fei stepped onto the Emperor Xian's simulacrum, his body brimming with killing intent. Just the simulacrum alone was not enough to vent out the anger in his heart. The person he wanted to kill was the Emperor Xian. It was the real face, not an illusion. Rumble! He stomped heavily on the ground. Crack! The image of the Emperor Xian was instantly shattered by Long Fei, and the last bit of blood on his head directly turned into zero. The system sounded out. Ding! Long Fei did not listen. He didn't want to hear about system beep now. Right now, he wanted to kill the entire god tribe. Thus, the instant the Emperor Xian's illusion was shattered, Long Fei took a step forward and instantly landed in front of the gigantic statue of the Emperor Xian, his fists moving. It struck towards the head of the Emperor Xian statue. A punch exploded. However, at this moment, space distorted and two phantoms walked out step by step. He owed her one to make up for it. Space twisted like a space-time tunnel. Space twisted like a space-time tunnel. Two silhouettes walked out. Long Fei was startled. He immediately threw a punch at the shadow. Old man Emperor Xian, is that all you have? If they don't even dare to come out, then they can only send these clones out to die. A furious roar. Long Fei did not look at the appearance of the two phantoms. The people that appeared in Hall of Emperor Xian did not need to see who they were, since they were all targets for killing. The punch landed. One of the two figures moved slightly and walked in front. The corner of his mouth hooked up and lightly said, Long Baishan's reincarnation. He did not dodge. He did not defend and allowed Long Fei to strike down. Rumble. Boom. 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 This punch was able to cause the Emperor Xian Phantom to retreat 30 meters. The power released from this fist that was infused with eternal life was not to be trifled with. However, the shadow did not move. Not only that, crack, 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 the joints of Long Fei's fists cracked. It was as if his entire right arm had been completely shattered. The mysterious man didn't retreat, but he retreated a dozen steps. His arm was in great pain as it powerlessly drooped down. It was very uncomfortable. Long Fei looked at the shadow and asked, an even stronger Emperor Xian clone? There was no fear in his heart. The flames of war grew even more intense. The smile on the mysterious man's face became sinister, full of disdain. He coldly snorted. You dare to say that you're Long Baishan's reincarnation with such power? Too weak. Long Fei's gaze darkened slightly. Staring at one presbyter of God's tribe, he flipped his left hand. Boom! It directly sucked him in and crushed his head. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing presbyter of God's tribe. Do you wish to absorb its cultivation? Yes, sir. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently level 3 Overlord. Injured? His arm is crippled? It didn't matter. Killing a person and leveling up once had allowed him to recover from his current situation. He was just hanging himself like this. The aura on Long Fei's body slightly changed. The crippled back of his hand instantly recovered. His 5 fingers gripped tightly, and a loud cracking sound could be heard. The shadow shook and laughed. Instant recovery from serious injuries. My cultivation has also become much stronger in an instant. Interesting. Relying on killing and devouring to raise one's cultivation. She saw through Long Fei with a single glance. Even though he did not know what a system was, but Long Fei's actions immediately understood it. Interesting, truly interesting. Just now, that presbyter of God's tribe was just at the 3rd level of the Overlord realm, and your current cultivation is also at the 3rd level of the Overlord realm. Whichever you kill, whose strength will you obtain? I've never seen such power. Is this the power you brought back from the other world? He was becoming more and more interested in Long Fei. Young Taoist landed beside Long Fei and whispered Senior brother, these two people aren't simple. Not only did young Taoist sense that the two phantoms had disappeared, Kuang Wang, who had been guarding the entrance to the shrine, also felt the space between his eyebrows tighten when the two phantoms appeared. He also felt the powerful aura, which was completely different from the illusory image of the Emperor Xian. This word was enough to describe him. Terrifying. The Savage King secretly tightened his eyes and started to worry. Hall of Emperor Xian. Long Fei stared at the two illusions, and at this time, he realized that the appearances of the two were completely different from that of the Emperor Xian's phantoms. One of them had a head full of white hair, and the other was a head full of shiny black hair. However, who cares who they are? That's it. Boom! The infinite boxing gripped tightly. Long Fei stared at the black hair illusory shadow and said, "No matter who you are, you will die if you block my way." Boom! He moved his feet and swiftly shot out. Black hair illusory shadow smiled faintly and said, "Die." I haven't heard this word for a long time. Seeing Long Fei rushing towards him, he smiled and said, "You are too slow." In his eyes, Long Fei's speed was as fast as an ant's. Too slow, too slow. However, he was not in a hurry either. He wanted to test Long Fei's abilities. Thus, he stood still. Long Fei's fist came down. Buzz! He exploded forth with his strength. Long Fei's body dove down as his fist struck the phantom shadow's head. Black hair illusory shadow stood there quietly for a moment to feel his strength, then said, "Not bad. My strength has improved a little, but still too weak." As soon as he finished, black hair illusory shadow's eyes moved. Wang Long, a surge of power from another world suddenly erupted. Rumble! Long Fei's arm was instantly smashed into smithereens and instantly disappeared. The infinite boxing was also instantly suppressed and was forced back in a Long Fei space ring. Senior brother, young Taoist pupils contracted as he cried out in alarm. The power of the 10,000 runes instantly wrapped around Long Fei's body, which was sent flying out. Even so, Long Fei was still unable to hold back and spat out a mouthful of blood. In that instant, he felt like his entire body was about to be grinded into dust, but he didn't. Black hair illusory shadow could have done it, but he did not. Black hair illusory shadow looked at Long Fei with astonishment in his eyes and said, "Don't be suspicious. Killing you is easier than crushing an ant. I just want to see to what extent you can use that devouring power of yours. However, what I am sure of is that you are not Long Batian's reincarnation. Even if Long Batian wanted to be reincarnated, he wouldn't be able to become the body of a trash like you. You're too weak and don't even have the qualifications to be reincarnated by Long Batian." Mockery. Despicable. Even his eyes did not even have this kind of playful, disdainful look and directly ignored them. It was because Long Fei was not enough to make them have the qualifications to produce such a thing. Long Fei supported himself with one hand on the ground. Boom! His body bounced up, grabbing another presbyter of God's tribe. Boom! Crush! Ding! Congratulations to the player, Long Fei, for killing presbyter of God's tribe and releasing the acquired power. Yes, sir. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Currently level 4 Overlord. The system beep descended. Long Fei's arm instantly grew out, completely fine, and the infinite boxing also instantly appeared on his fist. This scene shocked everyone in Hall of Emperor Xian. The two shadows were equally shocked. It's just as I expected. Interesting. But if there is no one here with a higher cultivation base than yours, how are you going to break through? Black hair illusory shadow said lightly. At this moment, buzz! A ray of black light shot out and engulfed presbyter of God's tribe, disciples, and a few powerhouses. Everyone's face changed. They didn't feel any pain or abnormality, but each of them knew what it meant. Death. Master, we are the descendants of the Emperor Xian. Master, we are the descendants of the Emperor Xian. Lord, have mercy, have mercy. Emperor Xian is our master. Lord, Lord, their voices were trembling. At this moment, their hearts were filled with chilliness, as if they had fallen into the depths of hell. The space between young Taoist's eyebrows tightened, and he immediately sat down cross-legged. He chanted an incantation as golden runes condensed into a defensive armor that covered Long Fei. The white-haired man was startled. He looked at the golden runes on Long Fei's body, then looked at young Taoist and said, "I seem to have seen these runes somewhere before." Black Hair Illusory Shadow said, "It might be the plane that we destroyed in the past." His eyes were relaxed. There was no change at all because of the people's begging. Were these people an ant? Not even an ant. In the past, the gods' tribe had placed him in front of the gods, in front of this world's ruler. They were even inferior to ants. This era was like this. The powerhouse is a god. The weak have lives like grass. In that instant, the black hair illusory shadow smiled and said, "No one is willing to kill you. Let me see if your cultivation can still increase in an instant." Death Reaper, die! He slightly tightened his brow and the black light disappeared, just like a black hole swallowing. The presbyter of God's tribe S, disciples, and ancient strong S were all instantly swallowed up and turned into streaks of black light. Not even a single strand of hair remained, let alone a fine powder. The entire God's tribe, thousands of people, almost every single one of them were powerhouse S at the peak of universal realm. However, in front of that shadow, they weren't even an ant. It was indescribably strong. Long Fei's eyes trembled slightly as she was shocked by the scene before her. He had never known fear, but now he felt a chill in his heart. His Adam's apple churned, and he swallowed it down. In the entire hall of Emperor Xian, other than him and young Taoist, not a single person remained. All gone. Young Taoist's pupils tightened. Dark power. The black hair illusory shadow smiled slightly and said, "Not bad. You actually know about the dark power. Seems like you're also from the outer realm." Young Taoist took another step closer to Long Fei and asked, "Why would your dark world come to such a small plane?" Small plane? No matter what, the ancient world was a matriarchal original world. How could a world that could reproduce in all things become a small plane? To those first-tier planes, the ancient world was but a small plane to them, the higher plane of the dark world. To suppress a plane like the ancient world, 1,080,000,000 kilometers. Black Hair Illusory Shadow was even more surprised. "You actually know about Dark World. Seems like I underestimated you. You really aren't a normal person." White Hair Illusory Shadow replied, "I was just saying that I saw the runes on his body somewhere." Young Taoist said, "Dark World has always disdained staying in this small plane. Coming here." Black Hair Illusory Shadow said, "It's very simple. Killing people, destroying the world, and finding things." As he spoke, his gaze was fixated on Long Fei. Staring at Long Fei for a few seconds, Black Hair Illusory Shadow shook his head. "I really can't sense any of Long Baishan's chi from him." White Hair Illusory Shadow also said, "I also didn't know that Long Batian would reincarnate into this kind of trash. If we were to be reincarnated into this kind of trash, wouldn't that be a humiliation to us?" Black Hair Illusory Shadow said, "I really can't figure out." White Hair Illusory Shadow said, "You've killed so many people from the God's tribe. What are you going to tell him?" "Ha ha!" Black Hair Illusory Shadow said, "He should be thanking me. I am helping him remove the shackles in his heart. I don't think he can go any further." White Hair Illusory Shadow said, "I hope he can think like that." "All right." Black Hair Illusory Shadow said, "I won't delay any longer. We have already proven that you are not Long Baishan's reincarnation. So, you two can go die now." As soon as he finished, Black Hair Illusory Shadow's eyes moved. A dark black light moved. Buzz! A brilliant light burst out. This time, it directly covered the entire shrine. The White Hair Illusory Shadow said, "You are about to cut off all of my Emperor Xian's thoughts." Black Hair Illusory Shadow said, "Only by doing this can he grow. How much energy did he waste on these clansmen in these billions of years?" This world is the same. If it weren't for his clansmen, Long Batian would be in such a sorry state. Would he have needed to undergo reincarnation? It's all because of these shackles, relatives, and women. Brothers are the biggest obstacle in cultivation, and they would waste countless of time and energy. They were originally geniuses because of these people who became useless. Black Hair, Illusory Shadow, looked at Long Fei and said, "Brat, remember this. If you have a next life, don't ever focus your energy on them. Forget it. Telling you is just nonsense. You can't possibly have a next life." "All right, we're on our way." Black Hair, Illusory Shadows gazed tensed up. At this moment, at the entrance of shrine, Kwang Wong looked at the black flames surrounding him, and his forehead suddenly turned sinister. Dark power. Why are there people from the dark world in this world? Impossible. The look in Long Fei's clone's eyes also changed. At this moment, the purple mist around his body started to move. Rumble. It was like a waterfall pouring down, directly exploding into the sky. Buzz. A violet light enveloped the area. It formed a giant shield. Long Fei's clone looked at the Kwang Wong and said, "Do you want to come in?" Kwang Wong shook his head and said, "No need." He took a step forward and headed straight for Hall of Emperor Xian. Long Fei's body trembled. "Didn't you say you were here to watch a show? Why did you run over here alone?" "Forget it. Let me go take a look to see just who could have such powerful strength. If it's the Emperor Xian." The space between Lu Ming's eyebrows tightened. Hall of Emperor Xian. The power of the golden runes from the young Taoist covered Long Fei's body. Long Fei looked at the black, illusory shadow's contemptuous expression and thought with all his might, a little stronger, a little stronger. Can the power of eternity be a little stronger? Boom, boom, boom. Long Fei's body received the black light, and instantly his pubes were filled. Rumble, rumble. Anger value erupted. Long Fei's body started to burn, adding on the golden runes released by the young Taoist. His entire body seemed to be burning with golden light as he watched Black Hair, Illusory Shadow's fists explode. He bellowed. The boundless fist also roared, with trillions of dollars worth of power brewing on it. The infinite boxing S that destroyed an entire planet. As Fist had not reached that level yet, but the power infused into the immortal energy was also exceptionally strong. The first strike had the advantage. Long Fei punched out. Black Hair, Illusory Shadow laughed. "You overestimate yourself." Black Hair, Illusory Shadow laughed. "You overestimate yourself." Yi Zichen's eyes narrowed. "Death Reaper." Buzz. Another ray of black light shot out. In an instant, the entire shrine began to crack, and all the black light was instantly devoured. It quickly disappeared. Universal Realm looked up at the sky and realized that his body was collapsing. He had disappeared and was covered by a layer of darkness. It was like a lunar eclipse. It was just that. The eclipse would recover after a period of time, but there was no sign of it recovering at all. It was a complete devouring. No, it was incomparably terrifying. The entire universal realm was in a state of chaos. The God's tribe had ruled over the universal realm for too long, so long that they were already used to treating the God's tribe as a god, and now their gods had all perished. Their hearts sank to the abyss. Beneath the mountain. What kind of power is this? Elder Swordsman, have you seen the Emperor Xian? This is the power of the ancient world's inheritance? Can you kill the entire shrine? Xiao Bai's body faintly trembled. He was worried about the boss. Elder Swordsman shook his head and said, "I have never seen this kind of power before. This is unlike the power released by the Emperor Xian itself." The Emperor Xian took great care of his own God's tribe, and the land around the shrine was created by him using a supreme cultivation technique. It's impossible for him to destroy the shrine. Tandapeo said, "How could that happen? Could it be the power of boss?" Senior Mies said, "It's not like that. Although Long Fei is arrogant and tyrannical, his heart is still upright and kind, and would definitely not cultivate this kind of evil power." Queen of Blood Moon said, "What I want to know now is whether my husband will live or not." Lan Mei's eyes flashed, and her heart was filled with panic. Su clasped his hands together as he muttered a prayer. Please bless my big brother Long Fei. Big brother Long Fei, you must be safe and sound. I am willing to use my entire life in exchange to protect my big brother Long Fei. They were all extremely worried. However, no one could go to shrine because of their heavy injuries. They could only watch. As for what was happening now, they had no idea. Hall of Emperor Xian. Ah! Long Fei roared, his fist heavily smashing toward Black Hair Illusory Shadow as he let out a furious roar. Black Hair Illusory Shadow laughed coldly. He didn't move at all. The black light around Long Fei was continuously devouring everything on his body. The immortal Taoist scriptures' defensive battle clothes that were superimposed on Long Fei's body was constantly decreasing, but Long Fei didn't mind. Those who block me die. His fists were like rolling thunder as they bombarded the black illusory shadow. He did not defend himself. The best defense was to kill the opponent first. Bang, 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 bang. Every punch was heavier than the last. Every punch was fiercer than the last, unleashing all of his strength. The reaping power of darkness frantically reaped everything in the shrine. However, the Black Shadow realized that in the entire shrine, other than the two of them, there were 4 other people. These 4 people had not been devoured by his dark power at all. He was feeling a little unhappy. Furthermore, Long Fei had been bombarding him in a frenzy in front of him. He became even more unhappy. Both of his eyes turned sinister as he looked at Long Fei. With just your strength? It's not even enough to tickle me. Long Fei's fist could not break apart the barrier in front of him, as if there was a special layer of protection on Black Hair Illusory Shadow's body. It couldn't even deal a single damage. It's all MIS. The combos from the critical hits were all MTS. Long Fei's power was already exceptionally terrifying, but it couldn't deal any damage. Was this a boss? Even the strongest boss couldn't do this. If this was a game, Long Fei would definitely think that the Black Hair Illusory Shadow in front of him was a GM. Even if you use your strongest forbidden strength to bombard it, it will be useless. What should we do? What should we do? Long Fei questioned himself as his thoughts flew. The reason why he had not been engulfed by the dark power now was because the young Taoist had constantly released defensive gear. If not for the young Taoist defense, Long Fei would have died a long time ago. Moreover, young Taoist simply did not have the strength of immortal Taoist scriptures at all. If he was unable to kill Black Hair Illusory Shadow, Long Fei did not think about the consequences, because the consequences are unimaginable. What he wanted was to kill. There must be a way. There must be a way that I haven't thought of yet. There must be a way. Long Fei thought crazily. He knew that if this was a game, there would be no boss that could not be killed. There would definitely be a way to defeat him. This was Long Fei's understanding of the game. However, his brain felt like it was going to explode, but he couldn't think of anything. What's my strongest point? Power of eternity. Infinite boxing? Body of Taoity? Is that it? Long Fei said, if it's these, then I can't beat him at all. And this is only an illusion. Real face is more than 10,000 times stronger than the illusionary shadow. How can he win? Methods. There's definitely a way. What is it? System girl. Long Fei looked at the system lowly who was still deep asleep, but she had not heard Long Fei's call at all and had no intention of waking up. Long Fei was almost going crazy. Even after exploding with his strongest power, he was still unable to break through the defense of the Black Hair Illusory Shadow. What do you want? Black Hair Illusory Shadow said sinisterly, Kid, tremble. With this kind of power, this kind of mentality, can it be called Long Baitian's reincarnation? Ridiculous, truly laughable. Black Hair Illusory Shadow sneered. What kind of existence was Long Batian? They were existences that could only be crushed. Back then, it was Long Batian himself who had sent them into the seal. After millions of years of suffering, in their hearts, they hated Long Batian and were afraid at the same time. Because he was Long Batian, was the only person in the ancient world that they were afraid of. At this moment, Long Fei's heart was slightly moved. Long Batian? Black and White said that I am the reincarnation of their master. The old devil said that too. Although the mission disappeared, their previous words. Long Fei didn't believe that he was the reincarnation of someone who came from another world. He was him. However, this time, Long Fei will bet once. Long Batian, right? If I am really your reincarnation, I will not be able to activate your power, but yet your blood vein is flowing in my body. The blood essence will not change. Long Fei thought about his own blood essence. It was impossible to determine what kind of blood vein's blood essence it was. This was perhaps the biggest reason. All right, Long Fei's pupils tightened. Let's take a gamble. The power of blood essence. Open for me. Long Fei is going all out. Let's take a gamble. Let's take a gamble. At this time, Long Fei couldn't think of any other way. If the blood vein in his body was really Long Baishan's reincarnation, then the power of his blood essence would be very strong. The young Taoist was almost unable to hold on any longer. If he did not kill Black Hair Illusory Shadow, he would die, and young Taoist might also die. He was the one who brought young Taoist out of the Hall of Eternal Life. He had to be responsible for the safety of the young Taoist. Blood essence, open. Suddenly, Long Fei retracted his fists and stopped. Black Hair Illusory Shadow looked at Long Fei and sneered. Why did you stop? Continue. Haha, with your strength as an ant, no matter how you fight, it's useless. Brat, this world is the powerhouse world. Ants like you shouldn't live in this world. You will only waste this world's air. Understood. Long Fei's forehead turned sinister. The blood essence did not come from the palm, but from between the eyebrows. A drop of blood essence floated in the air. Long Fei's hair had already turned half white. His breathing became heavier. The Black and White had warned him many times to never use his blood essence rashly. In the past, his blood essence was only a normal power, but this time, this drop of refined blood was extraordinary and could be said to be the purest drop in Long Fei's body. The infinite boxing moved and grasped with heavy force. Buzz! Roar! An ancient dragon roar that was above the ninth heaven suddenly exploded. A burst of light burst out from the glove. In an instant, time seemed to freeze. Black Hair Illusory Shadow's pupils tightened. He looked at the sky, and his mind trembled. At this moment, his real face in the ancient world also stopped abruptly. The white-haired man was the same. The two of them suddenly started trembling. Gudong! The black-haired man swallowed his saliva. Dragon, Long Batian. The white-haired man's eyes narrowed as 10,000 killing intents instantly burst forth. Emperor Xian was startled. Is that kid really Long Baishan's reincarnation? He was in disbelief. The white-haired man said, the dragon cry sounds are very similar. The black-haired man said solemnly, Long Batian, no matter if you have reincarnated or have died, this old man will definitely turn you into ashes this time. Boom! He suddenly sat down cross-legged. His hands formed a seal. A black light surrounded his body. The dark power surged out like a beam of light, directly surging into the void. The blood essence fell down, and the power exploded. Long Fei felt that this strand of blood essence was so strong that he could not even imagine it being possible. The power in his body was not that of a human, but that's not right. It was the compressed power of dozens of planes. That feeling. Long Fei's eyes released a light aura and suddenly roared. The punch landed. Crack! Walala! The black-haired man's defensive shield was instantly shattered. The illusory image swayed, directly blasting away tens of thousands of miles. Moreover, the instant he flew out, the dark arrogance he released immediately disappeared. The dark power disappeared. Long Fei looked at his fist and was wild with excitement. Ha ha! With a mad laugh, he charged out. Tremble for me. With a thought, he chased the black hair illusory shadow who had exploded outwards. He looked at black hair illusory shadow coldly and said, You are right. This is a world where powerhouse is a god. It's like you should die. The black shadow glared at him. How dare you? His entire person also instantly became furious. Buzz. With a flip of his right hand, a long divine dark sword appeared. Even if you are Long Baishan's reincarnation, you should still die for me. Dark chop. The sword slashed out. The dark power surged. The entire sky was split into two. The universal realm spatial laws were like a thin piece of paper under his sword. They were unable to withstand a single blow and were instantly slashed apart. Everyone in universal realm was stunned. It was unimaginable. Long Fei smirked and said, "Let's see who King dies first." He didn't dodge, nor did he dodge. He punched out with all his might. Rumble. A fist landed on the dark divine sword. The powerful dark black energy crazily crushed Long Fei, causing Long Fei's fist glove to explode. Bam! The power of his blood essence exploded. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Black hair illusory shadow retreated explosively once more, his image becoming a bit blurry. "Ha! Come again, trash." Long Fei laughed out loud. The powerful force made him extremely excited. He did not wait for black hair illusory shadow to stabilize his fist and chase after him. Black hair illusory shadow blocked it with his sword. Bam! With the punch, black hair illusory shadow's body caved in, and he roared out hysterically, Still trying to block? Let me see how you're going to block this." His fists were like a storm, just like before, only, just now it could not cause the slightest bit of damage to black hair illusory shadow, but this time was different. A long string of damage floated above black hair illusory shadow's head. 29392719 inch. 303829381. 283928192. The damage values were constantly stacked up, so it was impossible to see them clearly. Crack! The dark black divine sword was shattered. Black hair illusory shadow was even more unable to defend against Long Fei's attacks. "Who's an ant now? I ask you, who are these ants?" Long Fei roared. "Who's the trash? Do you think that just because you're from a foreign land, you can be so powerful? Do you think your Dark World people are so powerful? Stop right there. This is my world. If you want to mess around in my world, I'll make you regret coming out of your mother's womb." Boom, boom, boom. Berserk like thunder. Long Fei was completely enraged. Black hair illusory shadow was continuously being crushed, and right now, he could not endure Long Fei's attacks at all. His illusory image had collapsed, and he could not resist it at all. But at the other change, white hair illusory shadow, who was in the hall of Emperor Xian, watched on without moving, as he had no intention of helping black hair illusory shadow at all. He was incomparably calm. It was as if Long Fei wasn't his friend. It would be like Long Fei was being trampled on by the black hair illusory shadow. At this moment, the two clones of Quang Wang and Long Fei rushed to the hall of Emperor Xian. Quang Wang immediately asked, "Where's boss?" After stepping into the hall of Emperor Xian, his gaze immediately locked onto the white hair illusory shadow. At this moment, his body tensed up as if he had met a great enemy. It was the same with the Wild King. White hair illusory shadow laughed coldly, looked at the three of them, and asked, "Who do you think will win?" Quang Wang refused. "Of course it's my boss who wins." The corner of his white hair widened into a smile as he said, "Look at the sky." The barbarian king raised his head to look, and his pupils suddenly tightened. He then turned to look at Long Fei and roared loudly, "Boss, be careful." At the beginning, the black hair illusory shadow cut across the sky. Even now, the sky had yet to heal. There was only emptiness. Was it the void? No, that was the void of darkness. Rumble. Long Fei heavily stomped black hair illusory shadow on the ground. Looking at the last bit of blood on his head, he said, "Go to hell." "Ha." Black hair illusory shadow laughed coldly. "Going to hell? I must say that your strength is indeed capable, but it's still lacking a bit. Look at the top of your head." Long Fei raised his eyes and looked toward the sky. In the darkness of the crevice, a beam of light struck down with incredible speed, not giving Long Fei any chance to react at all. Ancient world's power transmitted over. Ancient world's power transmitted over. Bang, bang, bang. It was like a beam of light that shot down from the sky that was split open, not giving him any reaction. The black light was extremely dazzling. The instant Long Fei raised his head, a black light enveloped him. Rumble, thunder rumbled, heavily crushed his mind, his sea of consciousness, and his body. All three of them together were instantly crushed, and Long Fei was also instantly pressed flat on the ground. It was as if his four limbs were nailed to the ground, rendering him unable to move. Even if he activated the blood essence's power, it would be of no use. He wouldn't be able to withstand the crushing pressure of this power. Long Fei lied on the ground, unable to move at this time. The black-hair illusory shadow slowly stood up, with a dark sneer on his face as he coldly stared at Long Fei, and said, "I really didn't think that Long Batian would actually be so unpromising, to actually be reincarnated into a trash like you. What a surprise." The black light exploded as black-hair illusory shadow's body started to frantically absorb the strong energy. He was initially almost killed by Long Fei, but now, just like how Long Fei had leveled up earlier, he revived completely. Not only that, the aura on his body became stronger. The black-hair illusory shadow laughed in disdain. "You think that the power you use to stimulate your blood essence is powerful? You are too weak. Long Batian did not even use 1,000th of his blood veins' power on your body. And furthermore, you actually wasted your blood essence like that. What a waste." His strength had been restored to its peak. Black-hair illusory shadow stood up, walked to, and looked down at him. He sneered. "Just the power of the blood essence is far from enough. Understand? You don't even have a dragon body, and you want to kill me? Ha ha. Long Batian, back then, when your father was in the seal, your father's millions of years of time was filled with the desire to take revenge. It's finally my turn today. Ha ha." Black-hair illusory shadow looked up at the sky and laughed crazily. His laughter directly covered the entire universal realm and caused the entire plane of the universal realm to tremble. The laughter faded. Buzz. The black-hair illusory shadow directly held the black light in his hands, and with a wave of his hands, both of his illusory hands turned black. Power surged. It was as if black clouds were rolling over and over again. "Boss, be careful. Senior brother." When Kwong Wong and young Taoists saw the power release from black-hair illusory shadow, their hearts sank because they knew how strong the power in black-hair illusory shadow's hands was. The two of them rushed out crazily. But without waiting for them to rush out of the hall of Emperor Xian, the white-hair illusory shadow moved slightly and said indifferently, "You two, just wait here obediently for me." Boom, boom. The two were instantly suppressed. Bang, bang. The Savage King sank his body and stared fixedly at the ground like a nail. His face became extremely pale. Young Taoist was also instantly crushed by the pressure. They couldn't move. White-hair illusory shadow said, "Don't worry. It's your turn now that he's dead. There's no need for such a low-level plane to exist in this universal realm." He wanted to destroy this world, destroy the entire universal realm, and kill them all, just like how black-hair illusory shadow had just killed off the entire shrine. To them, there was no need for weak things to exist. To them, the position of universal realm was too weak and was of no use at all. This kind of world shouldn't be birthed. His words were also heard by everyone in the universal realm. For a moment, the universal realm was in a state of panic. This was especially true for those sects that had pledged allegiance to the God's tribe. All of them kneeled on the ground and begged for forgiveness. "Sir, we are the disciples of the God's tribe. We are the forces of the God's tribe. Lord Emperor Xian, where are you? Quickly come and save us." "Save you? Haven't you figured it out yet? Why would a powerhouse appear here? These two ancient strong are people of Emperor Xian. Do you think you've gone to Big Tree? Wake up, you guys are not even fart in God's tribe's eyes. Some people came to their senses. God's tribe was also unreliable. Moreover, the God's tribe himself had already died, so how about them? Their fate would be even worse than the people from God's tribe. Hall of Emperor Xian. Ah, the savage king let out a furious roar. The muscles on his body bulged, and his veins started bulging like worms moving around. Break! Boom! There was an explosion around his body. The world laws binding his body shattered. He gripped the devil's bat leaks tightly and looked at the white hair illusory shadow, his two eyes staring angrily. Then let's see who dies first. The power of law shattered. The Wild King was not bound by anything. White hair illusory shadow was secretly shocked, breaking through the power of the ancient code. Not bad. Interesting, but you? Too bad. Without waiting for Kuang Wang to rush over, the white hair illusory shadow moved. His fingers transformed into swords, constantly waving about. It seemed to have no power, no techniques. However, blood trickled out of the corner of Kuang Wang's mouth as he lowered his head to take a look. There were bloody holes all over his body. One after another, they appeared out of thin air and pierced through his body. Blood gushed out, and half of his body looked as if it had been shot by a machine gun. Blood instantly flowed all over his body. The savage king frowned. Young Taoist also let out a roar, and all of the immortal Taoist scriptures tactics burst out. Boom! 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 One rune after another was incomparably huge, crazily flying towards white hair illusory shadow. White hair illusory shadow's eyes swept across and said, "This power, too weak." Bam! The shadow moved, directly landing behind young Taoist. Young Taoist felt a chill down his spine. His eyes shifted to the back. At this time, white hair illusory shadow moved his right hand. Boom! A palm came crashing down. Young Taoist was directly sent flying and smashed into the ground, creating a 10-meter deep crater. White hair illusory shadow sneered. "You can't even take a single blow." In the entire hall of Emperor Xian, only Long Fei's clone remained. He quietly stood there and looked at white hair illusory shadow. In another place, Long Fei looked at young Taoist and Kuang Wang, who were heavily injured, and roared hysterically as his blood essence stirred. Open. In an instant, Long Fei's hair turned completely white, turning into strands of silver. He seemed to have aged all of a sudden, turning into an old man in his 60s and 70s. A heavy explosion. Break through the binding. Long Fei stood up. However, the black hair illusory shadow disdainfully said, "I already said you're not capable, but this power of yours, it's not enough at all. Die." Both fists exploded. The black energy was like a battle axe, striking towards Long Fei's body. Boom! Long Fei's body sank down and landed on the ground. The ground cracked. The shrine continued to collapse. Long Fei's body directly penetrated through the ground of shrine and fell down. He just happened to fall into the middle of the dragon lake of blood. Boom! Boom! The blood splashed several feet into the air. The calm surface of the dragon blood lake instantly surged. Wave after wave of blood splashed outwards. The 13th dragon ancestor's blood essence was all here. Every single 13th dragon ancestor was tens of thousands of meters long. How much dragon blood did they bleed? Originally, this was just a mountain valley. Dragon blood was poured into it, forming a lake. Dragon Lake. Everything around them was dyed blood red. As the surrounding vegetation absorbed the dragon essence blood, they all turned a deep red. It looked as if this was the purgatory of the human world. Long Fei was smashed through the shrine and fell into the lake. Although he still had a few points of HP left on his head, he had not fully lost it. His heart was like frost, as if dead. He worked so hard. He had used the power of his blood essence. But what about it? Still not good enough. He still couldn't win. Moreover, if he could not even defeat a single shadow, how could he defeat the God's tribe? To trample Emperor Xian to death? He couldn't even beat a shadow right now. Long Fei's heart received a blow. Although he wasn't dead yet, his heart felt as if it had died because he couldn't see any hope. He could not see any hope at all. He had used all of his power, even the energy of his blood and profound chi, to attack. Now, his hair was completely white, and he looked like an old man who had aged several years. But he just couldn't win. Long Face slowly sank into the lake. He felt very tired, System Girl. What do we do? I seem to be resting. Can I also sleep like you? So tired. No matter how hard I try and how hard I try, I'm still no match for him. I still can't do it. Just what do I want? Long Face thought bitterly. He did not know how he should proceed along the next path, because there was no way out in front of him. Death could descend at any moment. Even if he didn't, he had no more confidence to continue living. Too tired. System Girl did not reply. She was still sleeping. The system also did not return to Long Fei. Go to sleep. I'm sorry, everyone. Xiao Bai, Ice Fire, Tandapeo, Susu Queen, Lon Mail, Junior Brother, Kwang Wong, Hall Master, and my 8 King Kong. I'm sorry. I've let you down. Long Face slowly sank, his eyes looking at the blood-colored sky, his heart slowly becoming cold and still. His anger, his killing intent, and his fighting will were quickly decreasing. If anyone knew that Long Fei was an engine, they would have already stopped. He just wanted to rest. It's good to die. Sleep is fine. Right now, he didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to think about it. All he wanted to do was to quietly die. Maybe this is my destiny. Long Fei laughed self-deprecatingly. His eyes lit up as he stretched his hands out, allowing himself to sink down. Boss, Senior Brother, that person is Hall of Emperor Xian. Young Taoist struggled and roared. The Raging King was also furious at that moment and broke out of the white hair illusory shadow's restraints, shouting out to the people below. Long Fei heard it. However, he did not reply. He only said in his heart, I'm sorry. The ferocious king's eyes looked as if they were about to explode. He stared at white hair illusory shadow and let out a beast-like roar. Boom! The sound wave exploded, and space itself began to tear apart. The power of his body directly crushed the surrounding law energies. Boom! The devil's bat leaks began to burn. The Raging King was enraged and slashed at white hair illusory shadow. Berserk slash. 10,000 mountains. Boom! With a slash, the axis shadow became like a mountain. Layers upon layers of illusions were superimposed, and in the instant he slashed down, the illusion of the 10,000 mountains instantly appeared, as heavy red lines did not send out white hair illusory shadow. White hair illusory shadow's gaze turned cold. Seeing the heavy axe shadow crashing down, his body suddenly scattered. It vanished in an instant. It was as if his body had turned into countless tiny light particles. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sound exploded like thunder. The entire hall of Emperor Xian instantly collapsed. The thick ground crumbled. The shrine's ground continued to crack. All kinds of rocks and soil fell from the shrine. This slash directly broke the shrine's laws. Shrine had collapsed, but after the slash, the white light gathered together again, and in less than a second, it formed the white hair illusory shadow man again. The white hair illusory shadow man smirked and said, Not bad. You have some power. What a pity. Still not strong enough to even touch the hem of my clothes. Aha. Young Taoist was also instantly enraged. Boom. Destroy. Young Taoist opened his mouth and released a huge golden rune from his body. It was the word annihilate that he said. It was incomparably huge, and it covered the entire shrine sky. The man from white hair illusory shadow looked up and laughed. I think it's ringing. You seem to be training in the power of the immortal Taoist scriptures. Rumor has it that only the upper half of the immortal Taoist scriptures have been destroyed, and not the lower half. The lower half is too savage and was even destroyed. The lower half of the power is only mediocre. Ha ha! Young Taoist suddenly stood up. He held the sky with one hand. The five-fingered controller's gigantic extermination rune stared at white hair illusory shadow and said, I'll let you see what's so mediocre about it. Descend. The runes fell. The sky above shrine suddenly shattered. Words destroyer art. What he wanted was a power that could destroy the world. The man from white hair illusory shadow smiled. Is it only this kind of power? Go home and drink your milk. Boom! This time, he did not turn into light particles, but suddenly rushed towards young Taoist. The Savage King moved and said solemnly, I've been waiting for you to come. The horse stance was stable, the waist was one, and the two hands held onto the devil's bat leaks as they swept out. The wild energy also instantly shattered the space. The current heavenly palace. The strongest realm in the universal realm was a place that the Emperor Xian had personally created. It became fragmented. To the people of the universal realm, the battle that was happening in the shrine was like a fight between gods. Not to mention even thinking about it was hard to imagine. White hair, illusory shadow's eyes darkened. Formation! He let out a soft shout. Suddenly, a gigantic formation of white runes appeared around the mysterious man. There were a total of 4 formations around him. A power that was visible to the naked eye surrounded his body. Then, another heavy sound, break, rumble. The devil's bat leaks that the Kuang Wang attacked with all his might shattered with a walla sound. Even the handle of the hatchet was shattered, and the countless devils in the battle axe were instantly crushed into fine powder. They didn't even let out a wail. The Savage King retreated. His blood was boiling under his chest. He couldn't hold it in any longer and spat out blood. The young Taoist destroyed character fell. Similarly, was blocked by the array formation on white hair illusory shadow's body, and then heavily exploded. Crack! Boom! Young Taoist was sent flying. The man from white hair illusory shadow retracted his aura and laughed coldly. You can't even take a single blow. The Hall of Eternal Life plane was also a relatively high-level plane. The Hall of Eternal Life plane was also a relatively high-level plane. Kuang Wang and Young Taoist are both the type that can be considered extremely fierce, but the realm of the Dark World was the higher planes. Compared to Hall of Eternal Life, Dark World's plane of existence was much higher. The man from the white hair illusory shadow came from the Dark World. The power he cultivated was not the dark power, but a special power of the Mirage armor. This kind of explosive power could easily crush young Taoist and rampage. White hair illusory shadow disdainfully said, too weak. The Savage King was panting heavily. His eyes were bloodshot as he clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. He was in a bad mood, and his battle intent was soaring crazily. Step by step, they walked towards the white hair illusory shadow. White hair illusory shadow sneered, What? You aren't convinced? Did I not beat you to death just now? Do you think you still have some skill? Trash like you, with a little bit of brute force, doesn't even have the qualifications to die at my hands. Kuang Wang did not speak either. His steps became more and more unsteady. Finally, he took small steps and began to run. At the same time, young Taoist was also very unhappy. He sat with his knees crossed and chanted some incantations, causing golden runes to shoot out like a machine gun, forming a ferocious beast. Very powerful. Both of them were the kind of people who refused to admit defeat. When had he ever been so angry? When was he crushed like this? Not even in the Hall of Eternal Life. Yet he was still stomped over in this plane that was even worse than the Hall of Eternal Life. How could he tolerate this? The duo's power increased once again as the shrine's plane was completely shattered by their power. The shrine's grounds continued to fall. The Savage King roared. White hair illusory shadow's pupils tightened. Killing intent rose. His aura also changed suddenly. Bang, 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 bang. For explosive sounds rang out as the 4 formations of the Gate of Wonder appeared. The sky and earth suddenly changed, and the winds and clouds churned. The entire universal realm began to tremble. How big was the universal realm? It was over 100 million square kilometers. However, it began to tremble violently, as if the plane was about to be destroyed. Within universal realm, demon beasts were wailing and humans were crying. Everything on this plane seemed so insignificant at this moment. No one could do anything. At this moment, those powerhouse and sect masters that had once held high status could only raise their heads and look up into the sky. Their hearts were deathly still, and they could not see any hope at all. It's over. Universal realm is finished. We're all going to die. They're all going to die. Ah. Woo-woo. Ha-ha. The destruction of the world. Some people were in pain, some people were shouting, and some people were laughing. All of this seemed so powerless. They could only watch and do nothing. Their fates could not be decided by themselves. This is the saddest thing. Tian Shan Mountains. When Elder Swordsman and the rest saw Long Fei falling into the Dragon Blood Lake, they immediately came to look for him. However, when they felt the violent tremors, Elder Swordsman was stunned on the spot and said, "It's over." Xiaobai said, "What's done? The boss isn't finished. The boss won't die. The boss definitely won't." In Xiaobai's heart, Long Fei was an immortal god. Elder Swordsman said, "It's not Long Fei, but the entire universal realm is finished." Tandapeo asked, "What do you mean?" Elder Swordsman said, "Did you not feel any intense vibrations?" "Yes, why? Isn't it just the power of a powerhouse that caused a large area of land to tremble? If it's in the lower planes, I can do it too. There's nothing strange about that." Tandapeo and the others did not mind. While the shrine was fighting against the deities, it was understandable for the ground to tremble a few times. There was nothing to be afraid of. Elder Swordsman did not speak. Senior Mie said, "Look around you." Su said, "There's nothing by your side. Let's not bother about that. Let's first find Big Brother Long Fei. Who will go down to look?" Su did not care about all these. The women were more concerned about Long Fei's safety. The blade of the sword suddenly shouted, "Spatial rift." Around them were countless small cracks. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see them at all. They really are. Why would there be space cracks? Why do I feel like space is about to crack? Could it be that some monster is about to rush out from the void? Their eyebrows began to tighten. At this time, Murong Xiong dropped from the distance, his face pale white, blood hanging from the corner of his mouth as he said, "It's not a spatial tear, it's a spatial explosion. The shrine is above the universal realm. Now, the power of a super powerhouse has been released and directly wrapped around the entire universal realm. It will all explode." That scene, Murong Xiong raised his head to look at the sky and said with a heavy voice, "What kind of powerhouse are you exactly?" He could not understand what kind of person could have such great power. After listening to Murong Xiong's words, each and every one of them became serious. Lan Mei said anxiously, quickly, find Long Fei first." Su responded, Yes, Big Brother Long Fei, Big Brother Long Fei. Who will go to the bottom of the Dragon Blood Lake to search?" "I'll go." Queen of Blood Moon immediately wanted to step into the Dragon Blood Lake, but, being grabbed by Murong Xiong, he said, "You cannot get down." "Do you think anyone can touch Dragon Blood? It could kill all of you." The ancient Mu clan was naturally very clear about Dragon Blood. The power of the Dragon Blood was extremely strong. It wasn't something that anyone could touch. While they were talking, Murong Xiong broke off a branch and threw it into the lake. Swish! It immediately rose into smoke and then quickly turned into fine powder before disappearing into nothingness. Everyone's expression changed. Queen of Blood Moon said, "I can't, but what about Long Fei? That's my husband. I'm not afraid of death. If my life can be exchanged for my husband's, it's worth it." "I'm not afraid of death either." Su immediately walked forward. Lan Mei said, "Me too." Murong Xiong said in a heavy voice, "If I can exchange my life for Long Fei, then how can my uncle wait for you two to leave? All of you, stand to the side." Murong Xiong's heart was very heavy. If he could exchange his life, he would be the first one to do so, because Long Fei was his nephew, the only son of his sister in this world. Queen of Blood Moon calmed down and said, "Then, what do we do now?" Murong Xiong looked at Shrine once again and said indifferently, "There's no other way. Let's wait here for our deaths." Finished. He smiled bitterly and said, "Third sister, Big Brother has let you down. I can't even protect your child. I am truly a piece of trash." How helpless the word waiting for death was. However, they could do nothing but wait for their deaths here and accompany Long Fei in death. In the shrine, young Taoist and Raging King charged forward again. However, the man from White Hair Illusory Shadow had already willed a killing intent, not just to kill the two of them, but the entire universal realm. At this moment, Long Fei's clone moved and directly blocked in front of the Raging King and young Taoist, and said indifferently, "Let me." In the high plane of Hall of Eternal Life. In the high plane of Hall of Eternal Life, the higher plane of the Dark World, the difference in their levels of power was like the difference in their strengths. Young Taoist is strong, Mad King is crazy, but their powers were still unable to contend against the powerhouse, who was from Dark World. This was also the reason why Lord of Eternal Life Hall wanted Long Fei to quickly complete Eternal Lord's experience so that he could return to the immortal world. Young Taoist and Quang Wang were severely injured, but it was impossible for the image to kill them. They wanted to do it again. However, at this time, Long Fei, who had been silently watching on the side, suddenly blocked in front of the young Taoist and the Raging King and said with a deep voice, "Let me." The word, I was like a thunderbolt, instantly trembling. The atmosphere suddenly changed. "You are just a warrior of universal realm. You are not his opponent." Young Taoist asked, "Quang Wang, who is he? Why do I feel that he's a little familiar?" The Savage King said, "I don't know either. When I first saw him, he looked the same as you. It felt very familiar, but now isn't the time to talk about this. Get out of the way and let me go." Long Fei's clone had never left the universal realm. Even the Raging King was not his opponent. How could a universal realm ranker be a match for him? The young Taoist also said, "Even though we are not his opponents, killing the two of us won't be an easy task. You'd better leave this place as soon as possible." The clone did not leave. He looked at the White Hair Illusory Shadow and said faintly, "He has already activated his killing intent. If you go up this time, he will die." The Savage King trembled. "Will he die?" Young Taoist was also stunned. The two of them didn't believe it. However, the doppelganger's expression was extremely serious, and his pupils had turned purple. When White Hair Illusory Shadow saw his clone's purple eyes, he shuddered. There's actually a person born with purple eyes in this world? This is strange. The clone stepped forward, looked at White Hair Illusory Shadow, and said, "I don't care who you kill. No matter how many people there are in Universal Realm, it has nothing to do with me. This is the Universal Realm, a plane. There are trillions of lives on it. If you want to destroy them, so be it." They walked as they talked. With every step he took, purple flames erupted. It was as if the clone was walking on purple powder. As his feet landed, purple mist rose from his body, and his aura also slowly underwent drastic changes. "T, what kind of power is this? Young Taoist, have you met it before?" The young Taoist shook his head and said, "I have studied the cultivation methods and strength of the universal realm, but I don't have this kind of purple energy." "Isn't he from another world?" "It doesn't look like it. If it's outer space powerhouse, then he should know what kind of existence Dark World is. He definitely won't get involved in this muddy water." In the higher planes, the Dark World was known as the Seamless Gate. It was incomparably domineering. Anyone who offended the Dark World wouldn't have a good ending. Young Taoist replied, "That's strange." The Savage King said, "Let's take a look first. This guy isn't simple." The shock in White Hair Illusory Shadow's heart became more and more intense. It was not only the Wild King and young Taoist who had never seen this kind of power before, even they had never seen this kind of power. Purple flame? White Hair Illusory Shadow made a faint sound as he stared at his clone and said, This low plane of existence is obviously something I say we must destroy. We must destroy it. You can block me? Umph. You overestimate yourself. In an instant, the power from his body burst out even more violently, causing the universal realm to tremble even more violently. Mountains had been shattered, rivers had been cut off, and the sea had been turned upside down. Mountains collapsed, the ground cracked, and the sky trembled. All of this was like the precursor to the destruction of the world. The power of law was chaotic and completely out of control. The universal realm was filled with wails and wails. Only then did they realize just how small and how weak they were. Under the pressure of the powerhouse's power, they couldn't even be considered as ants. Crack! Suddenly, a sound was heard. The white light flashed as it descended, causing the sky to crack. Elder Swordsman's heart went cold. We're finished. Senior Mia asked, the power to destroy the world? Murong Xiong looked at the sky and started laughing bitterly. To think that I would actually die here. That's fine too. I can't protect Long Fei. I'll just happen to die with him. All of them accepted their fate. So what if he didn't accept his fate? There was nothing he could do. The sky split open, and the shrine sank into the earth. The corner of white hair illusory Shadow's mouth curled as he coldly laughed. There's no need for such a trash plane to exist. Trash plane, trash, go and die. The word dead had not faded yet. Suddenly, the clone vanished. White hair illusory Shadow frowned and said disdainfully, It's useless, no one can stop me. Bam! Before he finished his sentence, a hand suddenly pressed against the white Shadow's chest. No pain. But, in that instant, from his 5 fingers, a purple seal rune suddenly shot out and enveloped White Hair Illusory Shadow in that instant. White Hair Illusory Shadow's pupils suddenly shrank. Purple Flame Seal? The Purple Sun Divine Emperor? You, who are you? Just who are you? Panic filled his eyes. He didn't dare to believe what he was seeing. He didn't believe that the purple flame runes on his body were the power of that divine emperor. At this moment, Quan Wong was slightly startled and asked, Who is the Purple Sun Divine Emperor? I've never heard of it. Young Taoist also frowned and said, A super powerhouse of the Great Sun Realm. However, but that's impossible. The Wild King was shocked. The Great Yang World? Wasn't that the higher planes? Why would he appear here? This fierce person is also a member of the Great Yang World? The Purple Sun Divine Emperor? The clone was secretly shocked in his heart. So Master is the Divine Emperor of the Purple Sun? From the Sun Realm? No wonder. No wonder he's so strong, but why did he choose me? For what reason? The doppelganger didn't understand. Ever since he had left Long Fei, his cultivation had always been guided by some sort of power, as if there was a person guiding him from the shadows. After entering the universal realm, he knew a person. In other words, his master. He was dressed in black and his appearance could not be seen. He was just like a black shadow. However, he was carefully protecting a lamp in his hand. Very strange lamp. He saw his master staring blankly at the lamp several times, even talking to it. He had asked, but his master had never answered. He had only asked him to train hard. What was that lamp? He didn't know before, but later on he realized that what was inside the lamp was not fire, but the soul. A person's soul. There was no way to know what kind of person it was, so he didn't take it to heart. Now that the white hair illusory shadow mentioned it, the clone realized in his heart that his master was from the Great Yang World. The young Taoist said, It's no wonder we haven't even seen the power that comes from his body. He actually comes from the Great Sun Realm. This is awesome. The purple flame seal wrapped around the white hair illusory shadow and was shrinking. The purple flame seal wrapped around the white hair illusory shadow and was shrinking. The doppelganger was also very careful, because the power of the white hair illusory shadow was a bit beyond his expectations. Under normal circumstances, no one would be able to withstand his attack. However, not only was he not affected by the seal, he was also under strong resistance. Great Yang World. Purple Sun Divine Emperor. Heh. I will remember him, but Die for me first. Suddenly, the power released by the white-hair illusory shadow suddenly retracted. The shaking stopped. The spatial rifts came to a halt. The apocalypse had stopped right there. Everyone in Universal Realm was startled and then erupted into cheers. Thank God. We are still alive. We are not dead. Haha. It must be the Emperor Xian who saved us. The mighty Emperor Xian? They were glad and excited. However, they didn't know that it was because Long Fei's clone had restricted white-hair illusory shadow and had no choice but to withdraw the energy that he had released. To strengthen himself, he withdrew his strength. In that instant, his body immediately swelled up. Boom, boom, boom. The illusory image grew larger as streams of power, the color of Xuanbai's body, burst out, directly bursting the purple flame seal runes out. The doppelganger increased his strength, but it was a little difficult. The white shadow said, "If it was the purple sun divine emperor, I wouldn't even be able to block one of his attacks. It's a pity. It's a pity that you aren't the god emperor of Ziyang. Your cultivation of purple flame's energy is not even 1/10,000th of his own." Haha, it's far from enough. A furious roar. White-hair illusory shadow's body shook heavily. Rumble, rumble, rumble. One after another, purple flame runes exploded into pieces, releasing a powerful shockwave. Buzz! The entire shrine was reduced to ashes and nothing more. The sky over 100,000 kilometers shattered. It was a scene of destruction. The entire universal realm seemed to have lost all its gravity as it plummeted. Walala! Walala! White-hair illusory shadow coldly snorted, "Break for me!" Bang, bang, bang. The purple flame symbols tore apart one after another like ropes being snapped apart, and the purple flame seal weakened crazily. Crap, he's going to lose. Young Taoist sat cross-legged. Immortal Taoist scriptures, guard against gods. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Golden runes formed a protective suit over his split body, but just as it touched white-hair illusory shadow, it shattered. A roar. Berserk demonification. Boom! His eyes turned blood red, and so did his entire body. He entered a demonic state as he reached out toward the void. Boom! A gigantic blood-red warhammer appeared out of nowhere. The raging king charged forward angrily, like a red bolt of lightning. He rushed to the sky and struck white-hair illusory shadow with his hammer. Rumble! White-hair illusory shadow's body sank. The phantoms above his head were constantly splitting apart. White-hair illusory shadow raised his eyes and stared at the wild king. His eyes were like a demon's as he let out a mournful roar. Scram! Boom! It directly sent the savage king flying 1,000,000 kilometers away. He couldn't stop it at all. Rumble! Millions of kilometers away, the savage king fell down. The scene was like a nuclear explosion. However, in the deep pit, the savage king stood up, but he didn't wipe off the blood at the corner of his mouth. Instead, he heavily shouted, his grandmother's chest. With a furious roar, he charged once again. With a thought, he appeared above white-hair illusory shadow. Holding the hammer with both hands, he roared at white-hair illusory shadow. F***CKU. Bang, bang, bang. The shadow dissipated. His white hair was broken. This time, white-hair illusory shadow's expanding body shrunk slightly. However, white-hair illusory shadow's gaze turned sinister, and the space around him began to crack crazily. Die, die, both of you will die. He was furious. Power poured out like a torrent. The power of the universal realm's ancient code was completely crushed by him. Young Taoist also changed from defending to attacking, exterminating runes flying out one after another and surrounding white-hair illusory shadow as they fiercely exploded. The purple flame seal had not completely collapsed yet, so he could still suppress it a little. Once the suppression was broken, no one would be able to withstand it. The doppelganger saw the Kuang Wang launch an effective attack at the white-hair illusory shadow, and his heart tightened. Fight it! Let's kill together! With a flick of his left hand, a fist of violet light pierced through the air. Rumble. Once again, it smashed onto Whitehair Illusory Shadow's chest. The purple flame exploded, forming the seal, causing Whitehair Illusory Shadow's body to shrink a little. Berserk Devil Hammer. Rumble. Annihilation Spell. Rumble. All sorts of powerful forces started to explode wildly. The Whitehair Illusory Shadow continued to weaken, and his expanding body also continued to shrink. Even so, Blackhair Illusory Shadow at the other place also didn't think of helping out. Just like how Whitehair Illusory Shadow did not help him just now. Because he knew that even if the three of them added up together, they would still not be a match for Whitehair Illusory Shadow. As for him, after blowing Long Fei out of the shrine, Long Fei fell into the Dragon Lake of Blood. He had wanted to leave, but he suddenly realized that Long Fei was still breathing. He immediately felt displeased. Buzz. His body fell down. He flew down from the sky. The aura of power emitted from his body became black flames, directly covering the sky. Murong Xiong's eyes darkened. Looking at the dark sky, he said softly, "Find a way to save Long Fei. I'll go deal with him." Elder Swordsman said, "I'll go too." Senior Mie said, "Add me as well." The three of them flew up. They knew that Long Fei definitely wasn't dead when the Blackhair Illusory Shadow came down. Xiaobai reacted and said, "The boss is still alive, still alive." Fire and Ice said, "Although I'm not of the Dragon God race, my body is still flowing with dragon blood. I should be able to go on." Xiaobai said, "Your wings are broken, and you are heavily injured. Are you okay?" Ice Fire said, "It's fine." Bing was stepped into the lake as she spoke. Chi. White smoke rose crazily from his body. It was as if he had not stepped into a lake of dragon blood, but into sulfuric acid. He was in extreme pain, incomparable pain. His dragon blood was too low, and he was unable to withstand the dragon ancestor's power, spirit blood. The moment he stepped in, his flesh and blood madly tore apart. However, he didn't feel any pain. He still had a bit of dragon blood on him. If he couldn't do it, then no one could get down. Everyone looked to the fire and ice. All of them were frowning deeply. Su Su muttered, "Big brother Long Fei, wake up quick. Wake up." Queen of Blood Moon also clasped his hands together and said, "Hubby, quickly get up. Quickly get up. This world is still waiting for you to save it." At the bottom of Dragon Blood Lake, Long Fei laid there quietly with his eyes closed. It was just that. 9 swords floated around him. 9 dragons sword S. Each of the 9 realms of the primordial era have a seal. Each of the 9 realms of the primordial era have a seal. A total of 9. Long Fei traveled throughout the primordial 8 regions to unlock and kill all the Outer space demons S within the seal. The 9th dragon sword was in the sky region. Long Fei had never been to the seal in the heaven realm. Where did he get the 9th set of dragon sword? If Long Fei saw the 9 dragon sword, he would definitely have doubts in his heart, because he didn't know what the situation was either. It was actually very simple. The seal in the heaven realm had long been unlocked by the Emperor Xian, and the ancient devil also released. As for the dragon sword, it was created by killing the Emperor Xian Phantom Shadow. It was just that at that time, Long Fei did not care about what the image of the Emperor Xian revealed, as he had been thinking about killing. 9 swords quietly floated beside Long Fei. The dragon sword said, "Master has already lost his will to fight. We need to speed up. Big brother, can we decide without authorization? Should we wait until Master wakes up before deciding? After all, you should know your master's temper as well. He will definitely be unhappy without his consent for some matters." That's right. We can't really act rashly on the matter of restoring the ancient dragon body. The 9 dragon swords' attributes were all different. At the same time, protecting the seal was only one of them, and helping Long Batian, the reincarnated person, to recover the ancient dragon body was their true mission. Now that the 9 swords were ready, Long Fei was immersed in the dragon ancestor's spirit blood. 9 swords, the dragon blood was all prepared. Now, they were waiting for Long Fei to want to recover his dragon body. But now, he no longer had any will to fight, and his entire body was completely immersed in it. He had no fighting spirit at all. He was too tired. Now, it was as if he was resting with his eyes closed. Whether he died or slept, he didn't care about anything now. In his mind, he had done everything he could and did everything he could not do. All this while, he had been fighting with the goal of toppling God's tribe and trampling her to death. But now, it was already so difficult for him to kill a shadow of Emperor Xian. If it was the Emperor Xian, would he still be his opponent? Definitely not. The two black and white images were very strong, but Long Fei felt that the Emperor Xian was stronger. Otherwise, why would the two black and white images appear in the shrine for him? Be it the black hair illusory shadow or the black hair illusory shadow, they had completely suppressed him. Long Fei couldn't find a way. Spirit blood used it. The power of eternity was used. He had used all of his strength, so he might not even be his opponent in the end. He had always thought that one day, he would be able to step on the Emperor Xian's head and look down on him. He continued to work hard. In the face of such setbacks, Long Fei gritted his teeth and endured. Every single one of the stumbling blocks made him stomp hard on them, and every single one of them made him desperately grab onto them. He stepped into the universal realm. The western regions was destroyed, buried in a black hole. If it wasn't for his mother protecting him in his sea of consciousness, he would have already died if he had charged into the Hall of Eternal Life. Every single time was extremely difficult for Long Fei as he advanced forward with all his might. He had worked hard to defeat the God's tribe and trample her to death, but now, he still couldn't do it. He still didn't have enough strength. Even with all his strength, he was only able to kill one shadow. He was tired. The taut nerves relaxed. He was currently evading, not wanting to face it, not wanting to think about those things. He only wanted to lie down quietly in this dragon blood lake. It didn't matter if he died. Even, Long Fei wanted to return to Earth to become a normal otaku. Life was a little tough. He had no money. He had no sisters. He would hold on to his phone and look at his computer every day. Perhaps this kind of life did not have any dreams, but at least he did not have to be as tired as he was now. Life is wonderful at least. No matter how high the sky was, he could climb to it. No matter how vast the sea was, if one could swim, they would always succeed. But what Long Fei was facing now was a mountain that was who knows how high and how wide. It was too difficult. There was not even a shred of hope. No way. Master's battle is getting weaker and weaker until it's almost gone. If this goes on, Master will really fall into eternal sleep. And if we don't complete our mission now, I'm afraid we won't have another chance to do so in the future. The dragon sword looked up to the sky and felt the pressure of the dark power on the lake's surface. If he did not recover his ancient dragon body, he would die here. Will it work? Since Big Bro has already spoken, let's do it this way. That guy on the lake is too powerful. I think he's one of the 3 great demons, Dark Demon. Isn't there another by Mo? How did these 2 fellows manage to escape from the seal? Now is not the time to talk about this, but the time to let Master recover his ancient dragon body. As long as I awaken my physical body, I will not be afraid. Bring it on. 9 swords in a single heart. Instantly, the 9 swords were drawn, and the dragon roared. The dragon sword said in a deep voice, "It's starting." Buzz. The sword cheese vibrated, and the waves on the surface of the dragon blood lake began to churn. The power of the 9 swords all surged, and the dragons roared from within the blades. The 9 swords were like 9 ancient dragon gods. It was also at this time 13 dragon spirits floated out from Long Fei's space ring and surrounded Long Fei's body. The dragon sword moved, sword dragon soul blood. Move! Boom! With an explosive sound, all of his power rushed into Long Fei's body. Long Fei's body shook. Bam! The powerful energy that had been infused into his body was instantly ejected. The 9 swords vibrated as they were sent flying. What's going on? I told you boss wouldn't agree, right? He definitely refused. Long Fei's body rejected the power. The dragon sword said, No, Master will not reject any kind of powerful power. He might have lost his will to fight right now, so he has subconsciously closed his mouth. Actually, Dragon Sword's words were very tactful. Long Fei just didn't want to live anymore. The other Dragon Sword secretly tensed up. Then what do we do now? How can I restore my fighting spirit? That's right. What should we do? Master's subconscious is already closed. Who can enter his mind? If a person wanted to die, he would keep everything out of his mind. The Dragon Sword's heart sank. Suddenly, he flew directly out of the lake. It was also at this time. Murong Xion was flipped over by black hair, illusory shadow, and landed heavily on the ground. The Dragon's Sword said loudly, I need your help. I need you to wake up Master, to awaken his fighting spirit. If not, Master will forever fall asleep. When black hair, illusory shadow, saw the Dragon Sword, a black light flashed in his eyes. Dragon God's transformation, Sword of the Seal. As expected, he really is Long Baishan's reincarnation. Only he wants to fall asleep. He must die. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.